Hi guys. Let's start. I think it's 9 a.m. Okay. So, good morning, guys. Myself Sanjay Kumar Soni. Okay, and I am your instructor for the today this particular sessions. Okay. So, what I'm requesting you guys. So here I'm just going to give you very basic idea about the DEXE 450. Okay, but the course name is that CDW 450. Okay, so after the ending of the session, I'm going to share you one coupon code. Okay, which is helpful for you to give the certification exam. Okay, so if you have any questions, so here we are not going to interact so much. Okay, but yeah, if you have any question, if you want to repeat me any slides, if you want to repeat me any concept, okay, just let me know. Just drop a message over the chat. Okay, so that I can just tell you. Okay, all right. Okay, so here what we are going to do is what we are going to discuss here. We are just going to discuss about the object about the exam, like which type of a question will become in which section, how many percentage the question is going to come. Okay, uh then after that we are going to discuss about the each each sections, let's say for the user interfaces, for the let's say DML operations. Okay, whatever those question will become, just a basic idea how the question is going to come. Okay, what are the concept is going to cover in that particular sections. Okay, so those things we are going to cover it. Okay, then after that, we are going to cover about the Apex, SOQL, SOSL. Okay. Then we are going to talk about the governor limit, order of execution, testing, basically the test classes. Okay. So these things we are going to cover in the let's say in the brief. Okay, in the brief, but not in much details. Okay, because this particular session is only for the 2 or 3 hours only. Okay, so in the 2 or 3 hours we can't discuss everything, but we can give the basic idea about the all those things. Okay, so in this particular sessions we are going to cover basically the 7 lessons. Okay, the first lesson will be about the exams and the courses. Okay, second lesson is about the Salesforce fundamentals, so we are going to just give you very basic idea about the fundamental in Salesforce. Okay, then we are in the lesson third, we are going to talk about the data modeling and data management. In the lesson fourth, we are going to talk about the process automation, like workflow, process builder, flows. Okay, approval process. So these things we are going to discuss. In the lesson five, we are going to talk about again the process automation, but nothing but the triggers. Okay, then in the lesson six, we are going to talk about the user interfaces, like visual force pages, lightning component, LWC things. Okay, then at the end of this session, lesson seven, we are going to talk about the deployment, how we are going to deploy any code from the one arc to another arc. Okay, so just here we are going to just talk about very basic things. Okay, all right. So who is going to give this particular exam? So we are going to talk about the platform developer one exam. Okay, so this particular course is basically built for the platform developer one exams. Okay, PD1. Okay, so who is going to give that particular exam? So whoever having at least whoever having the, let's say, at least 1 or 2 year experience in Salesforce. Okay, or at least 6 month experience at a Salesforce program, inside the Salesforce as a Salesforce platform. So whoever having the basic understanding about the Salesforce, they can give the PD1 exam. Okay, platform developer one exams. Okay, so in the PD1 examination, so these are the modules, and how many question is coming from the each modules. So let's say if I'm talking about the um, Salesforce fundamental. So from the Salesforce fundamental, only 7% is going to come in the your exam. Okay, so your exam will be in your exam sometime it will be the 65, sometime it will be the 60 questions. Okay, so you should if you want to qualify, so you should score minimum 65 percentage. So if you are capable to do, if you are able to give the correct answer for the 65%, then you will pass. There will be the no negative marking, okay, in this particular exams. Okay, so um uh these things you need to keep in mind. Okay, so at least you should score minimum 65%. Okay, yeah, I think so. Okay, so Salesforce fundamental, you have the 7%. Okay, data modeling and the management, you it should become 13%. Okay, process automation and logics, so basically your from your apex trigger, from your workflow process builder, so this part is going to contain the majority of the code, majority of the questions. Okay, because it is going to cover the 60%, oh sorry, 40%, and pass marking will be the 65% only. So this lesson you need to keep in mind, you need to just go through 2 or 3 times, because most of the question is going to come from this, the processor process automation and the logics. Okay, then from the user interfaces it should be the 23. Okay, and from the testing and the deployment it should be the only the 17%. Okay, okay, so let's talk about the Salesforce fundamental. Okay, so this particular this is going to contain only the 7%. Okay, so here we are going to talk about the in the exam you need to just aware about the multi-tenant environment. Okay, you need to just know about the what is the MVC architectures. Okay, how the lightning component framework is, but how we can build a lightning framework. Okay, what are the like use cases when we are going for the declarative approach. Declarative approach means that that is without writing any code. Okay, and how what are the like what are the ways we can go for the customization for anything. Okay, so these things we are going to discuss about as a fundamental. Okay, so you should know about the basically the multi-tenant environment, you should know about the MVC architectures. Okay, you should know like what are the declarative approach, let's say how we can create the object fields or validation rules. Okay, and these process builder and all. Okay, so whatever the declarative approach will be there, and you should also know what are the customization, how we can achieve the customization. Okay, so you should know those things. Okay, so the first question is that what is the multi-tenancy, what is the use of that. Okay, so as you know, like Salesforce is basically based on the cloud. Okay, so cloud means like their database, their software, their compiler, everything is stored inside the cloud. Okay, so whenever you want to access anything, whenever I want to access anything, so what we need to do, we need to just create an account. Okay, and it should require only the username and ID. Okay, username and password. Okay, so based on the username and password you can access your data, whatever the data you have stored. So here multi-tenancy means will be nothing but there will be only one server, there will be only one compiler. Okay, which you are also going to use, which I am also going to use. Okay, so that is nothing but the multi-tenancy. Okay, means that means for one software, for one database, for one compiler, we all are accessing that. Okay, so that is nothing but the multi-tenancy. Okay, so what will be the problem. So let's say you are accessing any server, let's say for the 2 hours, I'm also going to accessing that particular server for the 2 hours. Let's say in the overall what so many people is there, so they are going to access the server for, let's say, for the 2 hours. I'm just giving the example, or let's say for the 1 minute, or let's say 30 seconds. Okay, so whenever you are also accessing, I'm also accessing, so what is going to happen, it is going to increase the load on the server. So what the Salesforce will give, Salesforce given a time limit. So in the Salesforce, for everything you have a limit, because you cannot go beyond the limit, because if you are going to beyond the limit, it is going to increase the load on the server. Okay, so that's the reason Salesforce given the governor limit. Okay, like you can write only the 100 SQL query, you can write just, you can fetch only the 50,000 record, you can perform only 150 DML operations. Okay, so these are the governor limit. Why the Salesforce given the governor limit? Because of the multi-tenancy. Okay, or no, you can't get, you will not get this like PPTs, you are not going to download this particular PPTs, this is just for the reference. Okay, so if I'm talking about the MVC architectures, okay, so what is the meaning of the MVC? MVC is nothing but the model, view, controller. Okay, so model is nothing but the your object, your standard object, your custom object, that is nothing but the model. Then we have the view. So view is nothing but whatever we are going to see in the UI. Let's say our visual force page, our lightning page, our page layout. Okay, so this is nothing but the uh, view. Okay, then controller. So controller is nothing but the which is going to, which is used to just change your status. If, let's say if you want to write any logic, if you want to perform certain action, so what that is nothing but that is come under the controller. Okay, so here we have the two questions. Just give me a second. Here we have the two questions. Is a custom object as a part of the model, view, or controller? Custom object in which part? Either it will be the model, either it will be view, either it will be controller. Yep, that's right. So custom object is nothing but it is going to come inside the controller. Oh, sorry, it is going to come inside the models. Okay, 1 second. Okay, so another question will be that, is a page layout is a part of the model, view, or controller? Anyone? So this question is going to come inside your PD1 examination, guys. Okay, so you need to just drop. Okay, that's right. So page layout is come under the view only. Okay, so let's say if I want to do any customization, let's say if I want to do any customization, how I can do that? Let's say, so basically what will happen whenever we are trying to purchase any arc from the Salesforce, what is going to give? Salesforce will give you one arc. Okay, that is nothing but the production arc. Okay, so let's say I have built, I have certain functionality which I want to achieve it. Okay, so some of the functionality is not achievable using the configuration tools. So let's say I have very complex requirement that we can't achieve it using the configuration tools. So in that scenario, what we need to do, we need to go for the customizations. Okay, so what are the ways to do the customization? So one is if I want to let's say customize anything, let's say I want to create any object, or let's say I want to perform a certain logic. So how we can do the customization, how we can achieve the customization, how we can how I can fulfill my requirement? So there is three ways. So one is using the configurations. So configuration means nothing but you can create the field, you can create the object, you can up, you can write the validation rule. So there in that, if you are going, if you are going through the configuration, so in that time you no need to write the code. Okay, the another way is that you can buy the package. So let's say you want a certain requirement. Okay, so might be in the in the Salesforce, in the app exchange, some of the developer they have already built, some of the company they have already built a certain functionality. Okay, and they can put, they are already put that their requirement, their package inside the app exchange. So some of the package will be the paid, some of the package is the unpaid. Okay, that some of the package is free. Okay, so if you want to access that, so you can just go there and you can just download it. Okay, and the third thing is that using the a programming tool. Okay, so using the program you can write a certain logic. Okay, using the program you can build your code. Okay, so these are the three ways if you want to build any code, if you want to customize your logic. Okay, so here we need to just compare the some declarative automation tools we have. Let's say using the process builder, we have the flow, we have the workflow, we have the approval process. Okay, so the question is that I hope you guys already knows about the process builder, flows, workflow, and process approval process. So first question is that uh, which of the automation tools is going to support a time based action. That means why we by which of the tools, by which of the automation tools we can perform a time based action. So can I perform a time based action based on the process builder? The answer is yes. Using the flow, yes. Using the approval, also using the workflow, yes. Using the approval process, no. Using the approval process we cannot perform the time based action. Okay, which of the tools is support the user interaction? So using the process builder, no. Flow, yes. It is supported only the screen flow. Okay, workflow, no. Approval process, yes. Okay, by which tools we can call the apex code? So using the process builder we can call the uh, uh, apex class code. Okay, okay. Using the flow we can call the apex class code. Using the workflow we can't call the apex class code. Okay, we can using the approval process we can also can't call the uh, apex class code. Okay, so let's say if I want to delete any record, so which automation tool is going to support? This is the important questions. Okay, this is the important question. So in the examination it might be asked, by which tools we can delete a record, by which automation tools we can delete a record. So using the flow only you can delete a record. Okay, so only flow is a declarative tools. By using that you can delete any record. Okay, okay. So here we are going to talk about the data modeling and the management. Okay, so here we are just going to talk about the how we can create an object, how we can establish the relationship between the object. Okay, we are going to talk about the record types. Okay, how we can how we can establish the relationship between the two objects. Okay, then how we can import and export the data. Okay, how we can insert the multiple record, how we can delete a record. Okay, so those things we are going to talk about here. Okay, then we are going to also talk about the some of the feature of the roll up summary field, some of the feature of the formula fields. Okay, so these things we are going to talk about in this particular lessons. Okay, so first things we are going to talk about the data modeling. Okay, so what is the data modeling? So data modeling is nothing but the it is a you can say it is a it is a property, or you can say functionality which is included for the standard object as well as the custom object. Okay, so what we can do it using the standard object. So standard object is basically provided by the Salesforce. Okay, you no need to create that. Okay, so let's say if any requirement you have, okay, which is not achievable using the standard object, so what you can do it, you can create any field in that. Okay, so let's say we have the account object, we have the contact object. Okay, so in that we have the certain fields. Okay, so let's say if I have a requirement which is not achievable using the standard field, so what we can do it, in the custom object, in the standard object, we can also create a some field. Okay, that will be the custom field. Another thing is that, so by default, let's say in the contact and the account have the relationship. Okay, so let's say if I want to create a new relationship with any other objects, that we can also do it. Okay, another thing is that if I want to by default, the Salesforce also given here the some system validation rule, but if you want to create your own validation rule, that you can also do it. Okay, you can create the page layout, you can create the record type inside the your object. Okay, you can create the workflow, process builder, flows, everything. Okay, you can also give the record level security, you can also give in the field level security. Okay, in any standard object. Okay, okay, so the next thing is that the let me just talk about the master detail relationship. So master detail relationship, basically it is applicable for the whenever we are going to relate the two objects. Okay, on the two object means one will be the parent, another will be the child, and here it will be a tight bonding. Okay, it will be the tight bonding. That means whenever you are trying to create a child record, parent record is the required. If you are not giving the parent record, you will not save that particular record. Okay, the another property of the master detail relationship is that whenever child object, whoever is the owner of the parent object, the by default the owner of that particular the child object record also. Okay, another property is that whenever you are deleting a parent record, okay, the child record is also going to delete. Okay, so the next thing is that in one object you can create the two master detail relationship. Okay, and 40 lookup relationship. Okay, if I'm talking about the lookup relationship, so lookup relationship is basically the for the loosely coupled. Okay, that means whenever you are trying to create the child record, it is not going to ask you the parent record. It's depend. Okay, so what you can do, let's say if you want to make a required field, so what you can do, you can go for the lookup filter. Okay, and in sorry in you can go for the while creating the relationship, you can make this particular option. Either you want to make the required whenever you are creating. Okay, and you can also choose the option, if you let's say if you are deleting the parent record, you want to also delete the child record, so you have these features. Okay, but by default, whenever you are deleting the parent record, child record is not going to delete it. Okay, and here for the parent object and for the child object, we have the different sharings. Okay, that means uh, we have the different owners. That means might be the for the parent object, we have the different owner. For the child object, we have the different owner. Okay, you can add the lookup filter also. Okay, so these are the some properties of the child object, sorry, lookup relationship. So lookup relationship in one object, you can create the 40 maximum. Okay, so the next thing is that the schema builder. So what is the use of the schema builder? Why the Salesforce included the schema builder? Okay, so as you know, whenever we are trying to create a, let's say, single field. Okay, so might be we need to, if I'm going for the standard ways. Okay, so in that time, might be we need to go for the 4 to 5 step to create any field. We need to give the field label name, then in the next step we need to give the profile level access, then we need to give the page layout access. Okay, so might be we need to go through that, let's say, 3 to 4 levels. Okay, 3 to 4 steps while creating the field. So assume that if I want to create the 400 field, or I want to create the 500 field. Okay, how we can do that? So if you want to create the 400 500 field, so in that time it is going to take a lot of time. So that's the reason Salesforce introduces the schema builder. So in the schema builder, what you can do, if you want to create any field, so what you can do, you can just drag and drop it, and you can just give the label name, and you can just give the API names, and you need to just save. And using the schema builder also, you can see in which object, let's say we have the course and course delivery. So in which object we have the master detail relationship, and in which object we have the lookup relationship. So let's say if I have the two object, and whichever having the master detail relationship, so they are going to connect as a red, see here. And if you have the lookup relationship, so they are going to connect as a blue line. Okay, so let's move to the next. So next thing is nothing but the data management. Okay, so data management is nothing but if you want to insert a record, if I want to update a record, okay, so for that we need to use the data management. Okay, so uh, as you know, some of you might be work for the data loader and data import wizards. So data import wizard is basically is given by the Salesforce itself. Okay, that is the that is the already inbuilt software inside the Salesforce whenever you have created any org. Okay, but if you want to go for, uh, if you want to go for the data loader, so that you need to download it. Okay, okay, so here we have the few properties of the data import wizard and data loaders. Okay, so here in the terms of the exams, okay, in the PD1 exams, this is the very important. Okay, so just keep your attention here. Okay, so let's say if I want to import fewer than the 50,000 record, which one I need to go? I need to go for the data import wizard, either I need to go for the data loader. Anyone? Okay, that's right. So whenever you want to insert a record, which having the less than the 50,000, in that time you can go for the data import wizard, as well as you can go for the data loader. But let's say if I have the more than 50,000 record, in that time your data import wizard is not going to work. In that time only the data loader is going to work. Okay. Okay. So the next question is that preventing a duplicate whenever we are importing a new record, which one you need to use? Which should give me only the, let's say, unique record. It should not give the duplicate record. Yeah, that's right. So using the data import wizard, you can give only the unique record. So by default, you need to just check one checkbox. Okay, if you want to get the unique value. But in the data loader, if you are going for the data loader, so you need to do the customizations. Okay, you need to do the customization. Might be you need to create a kind of the field, okay, which is used to just give the unique value. Okay, okay, so the next thing is that choose whether uh whether or whether or not to trigger a workflow rule. That means if I want to fire any trigger rules, either I don't want to fire any trigger rules, where we can get the option. So that option we can get only the inside the data import wizard, not inside the data loader. Okay, if I want to load up to, let's say, 5 million record, okay, which tools I need to use? So in that time your data import wizard is not going to work. Only in that time your in that time your data import wizard is not going to work. Only the data loader is going to work. Okay, if I want to load the object, let's say such as a product or the opportunities, so by default the data import wizard is going to support only the few objects, let's say account, contacts, solutions. Okay, so it is going to support only the 4 objects. Okay, 4 to 5 objects, and all the custom object. So if you want to, let's say, inside the product and opportunity, so in that time what we need to do, we need to go for the data loader. Okay, if I want to schedule the imports, so that we can do it using the data loader, not data import wizard. let's say if I want to put let's say I have created the mapping. Whenever you are trying to insert a record, so you might be create a mapping, okay, which you can use the later. Okay, so which mapping we can save it. So only the data loader import data loader mapping, if you have created the mapping, so you can get that particular file. If you want to save that, you can save it for the later use. Okay, so let's say the next thing is that if I want to export the data or if I want to delete the data, so exporting or deleting the data is applicable only for the data loader, not the data import wizard. Okay, so the next thing is that we are going to talk about the process automation. Okay, so this will be the first part. Okay, so this is going to cover most of the things. Okay, so this is going to cover, let's say, 40% of your exams. Okay, it might be increase, it might be decrease, guys, some of the times. Okay, so yeah, it happened. Okay, so here we are going to just talk about the some declarative process automation like workflow process builders. Okay, then we are going to talk about the Apex classes. Okay, how we can write a variable, how we can write a constant, how we can write a method. Okay, but only the very basic things. Okay, only the yeah, very basic things. Okay, then we are going to talk about the Apex control flow, how it is going to work. Okay, then we are going to talk about the Apex classes, what are the scenario, what are the Apex interfaces is there. Okay, so we are going to talk about that. Then we are going to talk about the SOQL, SOSL, and the Apex DML operations. Okay, then we are going to talk about the let's say if I'm getting any exception, how we can handle those particular exception. Okay, so these things we are going to talk about. Then we are going to talk about the how we can prevent the security inside the Apex classes, how we can take care of the security inside the Apex classes. Okay, yep. Okay, so first thing is that we are going to talk about the some properties of the formula field as well as the roll of summary field. So what is the formula field? So formula field is nothing but a field which is going to derive from the some another field. What is the meaning? So formula field is nothing but, let's say I have the two field, let's say first number and second number. Okay, now I want to calculate the third number. Let's say I want to calculate the third number. How I can get that? So what we need to do, we need to go for the first number. We need to create a third file that will be the first number. It is going to contain the summation of the first number and well as the third number, as well as the second number. Okay, so similar way, formula field is basically getting the value from the some another field. Okay, and it is going to derive from the some another field. So let's say I have very simple requirement. What is my requirement? I want to calculate the course in date. Okay, so here what is the requirement? So here I have the course start date in the course delivery object. So I have that basically two object. One is the course, another is the course delivery. Okay, so course and course delivery have the master detail relationship. Okay, so what is the requirement? Requirement is that in the course delivery we have the start date, and in the course object we have the durations. Okay, so what is my requirement? I want to calculate the course end date. So course end date is nothing but the course delivery start date plus course duration minus 1. Okay, I want to calculate the end date. So what will we need to do? We need to go for the start date. That I will get it from here. But if I want to get any field from the parent object, so we need to go for the one level up. Okay, so if I want to get the duration, so what we need to do, we need to, if I'm writing the formula field here, so what we need to do, we need to go for the parent object. Okay, and if I want to access that particular field, so we need to just write here, let's say course dot duration. Okay, and we can subtract it minus 1. So if you are going to the formula field, and if you are going to, let's say, one level up, or let's say two level up, so similar way in the formula field, using the formula field, you can go up to 10 level up. Okay, using the formula field, you can go to the 10 level. So let's say you can go from the parent to the grandparent, then grandparent. Okay, like that you can go up to the 10 levels. Okay, so in the examination might be asked, like, you in the formula field, how many level we can go to the, so we can go till 10 levels up. Okay, so here few of the properties of the formula field. So first is that in the formula field you can write only the 3900 characters maximum. Okay, and another property is that formula field is basically not, it is not going to persist the value inside the database. Okay, that means whenever you want to access the value, so it is not going to store that particular value inside the database. Why? Because formula field is going to derive from this some another field. Okay, so it is not going to store the value inside the database. Okay, uh, another thing is that formula field is basically it is not going to calculate on the user specific mode. It is going to always the calculate on the system mode. That means, let's say in the formula field I have used the two fields. Okay, so one field I have access, another field I don't have the access. So formula field is going to run on the system mode, so it is not going to check either you have this particular field access, either you don't have the field access. You are going to get the always value. Okay, so if I'm talking about the rule of summary field, so rule of summary field is basically available inside the master detail relationship. And in the master detail relationship, it is applicable only for the master, that means the parent. And in the role of summary field, you have the four option. One is the count, sum, min, and max. Okay, so in the examination, when I given the exam, so in that time it is going to ask me these questions: what are the option available inside the role of summary field? Most of the people is confused, there will be the average field also. Okay, so average field is not available inside the role of summary field. The field is available only for the count, sum, min, max. Okay, these are the option available inside the role of summary field. Okay, so again, a roll up summary field value, it is going to persist your data inside your inside your database. Okay, roll up summary field is also going to calculate on the system mode. Okay, another thing is that whenever a role of summary field is going to created, whenever you are going to calculate the role of summary field. Okay, so it might be if you are trying to update it, so what it's going to do, it is going to include one more of order of executions. Okay, I will tell you this. I will tell you these things whenever I'll try to cover this order of execution. Okay, so in that time your logic will be your doubt will be the clear. Okay, all right. So the next thing is will be the Apex. Okay. Um, so what is the Apex? So Apex is the basically a cloud-based object-oriented programming languages. Okay, which is used to whenever you have any requirement which is not achievable using the configurations. Okay, if let's say if you have a certain requirement, okay, which you can't achieve it using the configurations. Okay, so in that time what we need to do, we need to go for the Apex classes. So in the Apex classes, we can write any method and we can perform any requirement. Okay, whatever we have the requirement. Okay, so using the Apex classes, you can access your metadata. Metadata is nothing but the your object, your field. Okay, so those things you can access it. Okay, and Apex classes basically work on the multi-tenant environment. Okay, multi-tenant means like if you are writing the Apex class code, so you have the certain limits, you have the governor limit, you need to think about the governor limit. Okay, so Apex classes is basically used for the data manipulations. Okay, you can update a record, you can create a record, you can delete a record. Okay, so whenever you are talking about, let's say, if you have accessing any field. Okay, so let's say I have here what I have did, I have just accessing this particular location field inside our the Apex class code, Apex class code. So, and let's say if I want to delete this particular field, so it is not going to allow you to delete the field because this particular field is already accessed inside your code. Okay, so whenever might we have seen in the real time example, whenever you are trying to delete any field, and if that particular field is already references somewhere. Okay, so in that scenario you can't delete that particular field. Okay, so what you can do it, if you want to change that, so you can just first uncomment, you comment your code, then after that you can change your code. Okay, then you can delete that. Okay, so in the Apex we have the certain data types. So let's say we have the blob. So blob is basically used for the, if I want to store the images or the audio or the video kind of file, so in that time we need to go for the blob. Okay, then we have the boolean variable, then we have the date, then we have the date times. Okay, then we have this string. So these are the few basic primitive data type inside the Apex. Okay, so let's say if you have just declare, let's say if you have just created a variable. Okay, and if you have not initialized. Okay, so by default the variable value will be the null. Okay, variable value will be the null. Okay, and if I want to declare any constant variable. Okay, so what we need to do, we need to give that particular variable as a static as well as the final. Okay, so Apex classes is basically almost similar to the Java. Okay, it is almost similar to the Java. Okay, so in the Apex also, so let's say in the variable, let's say I want to store the name. Okay, simple. Let's talk about a very simple example. So let's say if I want to store the name, so what we can do it, we can just create here the string. Let's say name is equal to, let's say, Sanjay I have given. But let's say if I want to store the my company's all the employee name, how I can do that? So again, if in our company, if I have the 10,000 employees, so I need to create the 10,000 variable. Okay, so to avoid that, what Salesforce introduces, Salesforce have the collections. Okay, so collection is basically used to handle the multiple data. Okay, so in the Salesforce we have the list, we have the set, we have the map. So basically list is going to use it is going to use to contain the duplicate value. Okay, and uh, list is going to also use to contain the value in the form of order. That means, let's say here I have created a list of the account, and here I have given the new list of account. So if I want to store the particular if I want to store the duplicate value, so I can store that particular duplicate value. So here account one, account two, account one will be coming. Okay, so it will be the basically the order. That means first value is going to store this, second value is going to store this, third value is going to get store the this. Okay, and let's say if I want to get the value from the list, how I can get? So there is two way. One is best using the get method. So what you can do, you can just write here the account dot get, and here you can pass the zeroth index. Okay, so using that you can get the value. Either you can, if I want to get the value, so you can just pass here, let's say account one, and what is going to do, it is going to give you the first value. Okay, it is going to give you the second value, so it is going to start the index from the zeroth. Okay, so it is going to give the second value. Okay, so whenever you want to store the just value, you are not going to take care of the uniqueness. Okay, so in that time you can go for the list. But let's say if you want to store the if you want to store the value okay, but you want to store the unique value, okay. So in that scenario we need to go for the set, okay. So set is going to contain the unique value, okay, and it will be the by default it is going to sort that particular value, okay. So either in the ascending order, either it might be the descending order, okay. And whenever you have requirement, if you want to store the value in the form of key and value pair, so in that time we need to go for the map, okay. Guys, can you hear me? Is there any problem? Okay, thank you. So here it is asking, I have a simple question. So let's say they have given, uh, just give me a second. Here I have simple questions. What the question? They have created a set of string and they have given the name is equal to new set of string. Okay. They have added the name is equal to Acme. They have added the Salesforce. They have added the Salesforce. Okay. So what the question they have asked? What the question they have asked? Then after that they are just printing that if this particular set contain the par dot or not, if this particular statement is contain, what will be the size of this particular set, okay. So they, what the question they have asked, how many add statement are going to execute it? Either it is going to two, either it is going to execute it three times. Anyone? Because set is going to contain the unique values, but how many times of the add statement is going to execute it? Of why two? Yep, the answer is the three. It is going to add statement is going to execute it three times, but value is going to contain only the two times, because see, it is going to contain the first acme, then the second time as Salesforce. Whenever they are trying to execute, once it is going to execute it at the third add statement, it will say already the Salesforce is there, so it is not going to store that particular value, okay. It is asking what is the size of the set, so it is going to store only the two values, okay. The next question is that do the number of the add statement and the size of the set is mattered? The answer is no, because it is going to execute the three times and the size is the only the two times, okay. Okay, so in the Salesforce, in the Apex, we have the conditional operators, we have the conditional for loops. Okay, we have the if else, we have the while, we have the do whiles, we have the for loop, we have the traditional for loop. We have, if I want to iterate it using the list or the set, for that we have also, okay. And if I want to iterate it using the SQL, for that we have also the for loop. Okay. So uh if you want to execute, let's say any loop using the while, so what we need to do, we need to just give it that iterator and the like number of the times. That means how many times I want to execute this particular loop, so we can give that, okay. This is the traditional loop using the for loop, okay. And let's say if I want to, this is used basically 90% whenever we want to iterate it any list, or if I want to state any set, so in that time we need to use always this, okay, this for each loop, okay. So the next thing is that here what they are trying to do it, they have created a list of the integer and they have added the value, let's say 51, 39, 88, okay. And what they are going to do, they have just stored the size, so size will be the 1 2 3, 3 will be there, okay. And iterator value they have given the 0, so what is going to happen, it is this particular loop which is going to execute it the three times. Similar way, if I want to execute this, so again here iterator value will be 0, here is going to compare from the 0 and it is going to get the value, so you can execute like this also, okay. And if I want to execute it like using the list for loop, so what we need to do, whatever the type of the list will be there, so first thing you need to write that, then which type of this particular list. So let's say if this particular list is type of the integer, so you can give here the integer, then here you can give the any specific value, here you can just give here the, let's say here you can give for the any reference value, okay. And you can execute that, okay. The next thing is that we are going to talk about the SQL, okay. So SOQL is basically the Salesforce object query language, okay, which is basically used to query the record from the database, okay. uh, so if I'm talking about the, let's say if I'll compare the difference between the SOQL and SQL. So SQL is a like it is also used for the query. It is also going to use for the CAD operation. It is also going to use for the transaction control. Okay, but SQL is just used to query the record. Okay. In the SQL we have the asterisk. So let's say if I want to select the every field, so what we can do, we can just write here this select asterisk. But SOQL it won't support the asterisk. Okay. In the SQL we have the left join, we have the right join, but in the SQL we don't have the left join and right join. We have the parent to child and we have the child to parent to query. Okay. Here SOQL is going to support the relationship in the relationship query, but SQL won't support any kind of the relationship query. In the SQL we don't have any governor limit, but here in the SOQL we have the governor limit. Okay. SOQL is not SQL. SQL and SOQL is both are different. Okay. So this is this very simple example. Let's say if I want to write any query, so if I want to write any query, so what we can do here, we can just write select any field API name. Okay, field one, field two, comma field two API name from which object you want to select. What is the conditions? Okay, what is the limit? What are the other things you need to give? Okay, so these things, this is the very simple examples. Okay. So after string 21, okay, Salesforce is also selected like this. Let's say if I want to select the custom object field, or if I want to select all the standard object fields, so you can just write it here. Let's say select 1 second. Select a field, and here you can give as a standard. So what is going to give? It is just going to give you the standard object field. Okay. So this is the very simple example. Select ID, comma name from the account where the created date is equal to the today. Okay. So if I want to compare, if I want to just provide the filter condition, so we have the equal operator, we have the not equal operator, we have the greater than, we have the less than, we have the greater than equal to, we have the less than or equal to, we have the like operators. Okay, so like operator is basically used to just let's say if I want to search from the string, I want to search, let's say printer, whichever the subject have contained the printer, I want to fetch all those words. So in that time we need to use the like operator. Then we have the in, not in. Okay, then we have the include and exclude. So include and exclude is basically used for the pick list values. Okay, multi-select pick list values. Okay, then we have the and not um, operator to just combine the logics. Okay. If I want to let's say compare the date, let's say if I want to compare the date time, how I can do inside the how we can do it inside the SOQL. So if I want to just compare the date, so you need to just give the format as a date dd YY. Okay, sorry, YY Okay, if I want to compare the with the date time, so you need to just give here the YY and you need to give that time zone. You need to give that time, as well as you need to give here the time zone. Okay, let's say if I want to let's say if I want to fetch the last 20 days data, so how we can do it here, you need to just compare as a last and days and whatever the date you want to query, whatever the date you want to compare, so you can just give that particular date. If I want to compare any boolean variable, so you can just give her the true or the false. Okay, so if I want to let's say if I have query a record, okay, let's say now I want to store that particular record inside a list, how I can do that? So here you can just write it. Here you can just write, let's say select ID comma name from the account. Okay, and if you want to store that particular record, so what you need to do, you need to create a list, and in that particular list you can store that particular value. Okay, so this is the square bracket notation. Okay, the another thing is that you can go for the you can go for the dynamic SQL query. So what we need to do, we need to give that particular query in the form of the string. Okay, so what you can do here, you can just write here the database dot query. What is the use of the database query? So it is going to convert whatever the string you have given in the form of the query, and it is going to return the list of that particular record, and here you can store it. So these are the two ways if you want to store, if you want to write the query. Okay, so another thing is that if I want to compare any value, so how I can compare using the set. So what uh, how we can do that? So let's say I have created a set, and in that particular set I have stored the value. So let's say I have stored the string as a, let's say 1003 1005. Okay, and if I want to compare it, so how I can compare it? So you need to go for the binding operator. Okay, so how we can write, you can just write here, let's say select case number from the cases where the case number in and that particular set. So I hope you guys are knows this. Okay, so here let's say there will be the there is a some question here. Okay, so let's say I have written here the SQL query. Here I have just written a select ID comma name from the account where the ECME, where the name is equal to ECME. What is the problem in this particular query? So there will be the two problem. What will be the problem? So let's say in our database we don't have the name is equal to ECME. So in that time we are going to get an error. Or let's say in our database we have the two name which we have the two record whichever the name is the ECME. So in that time we are also getting the error. So if we don't have the name with the ECME, so in that time we are going to get this particular exception. List has no row for this object. But if we have the already let's say more than one record with the name of ECME, so in that time we are going to get this particular exception. Okay, all right. So the next thing is that, as you already knows, in the Salesforce we have already the governor limit. Okay, uh, we have the, let's say for the heap size we have the 6 MB, and for the SQL query we can write only the 100 SQL queries. Okay, and we can fetch only the 50,000 record. Okay, so how we can iterate it? What are the best practices to iterate the record? Okay, so let's say let's say uh 1 second. Okay, so what is the best practices to writing to iterating any record? So let's say I can pass this particular first loop. Let's say if I'll not write, what will happen? So let's say if I have not writing this particular loop, first line if I'm not writing, I can directly query this, but I can directly I can just write this particular query over here. Okay, so what will happen in that scenario? So assume that in your database you have the 30,000 record, and one record having the size, let's say 2 KBs. And you already knows you have the heap size will be the 6 MB maximum. So whenever you are trying to figure out, whenever you are trying to query this 40,000 record, okay, so in that time it might be hit the heap size error. So to avoid the heap size error, how we can iterate it? So we need to, if I want to iterate it, so what we can do here, we can just here the write the first list of the case and select case number from the case. So what is going to happen in the first iteration? It is going to just give you only the 200 record. In the first iteration, it is going to just give you the 200 record, not more than that. So what will happen? You can pass that particular 200 record over here, and you can process the 200 record. Then if you have, let's say you have the 403 record, so what will happen here? So again the 200 record you going to give this, again you can pass that particular record over here, again you can process. Then after that you have the 3 remaining records, so again this particular 3 remaining record will come here, again that particular record come here, and you can process that. So if you want to avoid the heap size error, so the best ways that you can iterate like this whenever you want to write the query. Okay. So if we are going for the relationship query, let's talk about the relationship query. So when we are going for the relationship query, so let's say if I'm in the account level, and let's say if I want to get the contact object, if I want to get the contact object field, no, it's best practice. It's best practice only. See, if you want to avoid the heap size error, you need to write the for within for. Okay. Okay. So let's say we are talking about, we are just going to talk about the parent to child relationship, okay, for the standard object as well as for the custom object. Okay. So let's say we are talking about the account and contacts. So let's say if I'm writing the contact object field, okay, so and if I want to access the parent object field, how I can get the parent object field? So you can just write here, let's say select id comma account id, and you can just write here the account dot name from the contact. Similar way, if I want to get any custom object fields, how we can get that? So here you need to just keep in mind, if you are going for the custom object relationship, so you need to, here you need to give the, let's say, object API name. In the place of underscore underscore c, you need to replace it underscore underscore r. Okay, that you need to go keep in mind. And using the child to parent level, you can go up to the maximum 5 level up. Okay. If I'm talking about the parent to child, let's say if I'm writing the query on the parent object, and I also want the I also want the query the child object field, how I can do that? So here you can just write, let's say select id comma name, and here you can just write select id from the contact. So here you need to give the plural names. Okay. Similar way for the custom object, if you want to query, so you need to give the uh, API name underscore underscore r, and here you again you need to give the plural names. Okay. And here you can go only the one level down, not more than that. Okay. Let's talk about the SOSL. So when we are going for the SOSL, so SOSL full form is nothing but the Salesforce Salesforce object search language. Okay. So whenever if you want to search any record in the multiple object, whenever if you want to search any record in the multiple object, in that scenario we need to go for the SOSL. So the question what they have asked in the PD1 examination, what will be the return type of the SOSL? So return type of the SOSL is nothing but the list of the S object. Okay, you need to keep in mind. Okay, so how we can write it? So here you can just write the find. So this is the keyword, fixed keyword. This is the acme. Acme is nothing but the which string you want to find out in all, like in which field you want to search it. And here returning will be the returning means like in which object you want to search. So let's say I want to search in the account and opportunity, so you can just give that. Okay. So let's say uh, by default, if you have given, if you have written any SSL, sir, if you have written any SSL query, okay, so by default it is going to return only the ID. If you want to return the name or any other field, so by specific you need to give here. So let's say if I want to return the name, so you need to just give the name. If let's say if I want to return the phone, so you can just give here the comma and you can just write that. Okay. So by default the SSL is going to give you the list of the S object. Okay. So let's say if I'm getting here the list of the S object, now I want to get, let's say, account detail, or let's say if I want to get the opportunity detail, because I already queried from the account, I'm fetching that particular record from the account as well as the opportunity. How I can get that? So if you want to get the account data, so account data is going to store inside the zeroth index. Okay. It is going to store the inside the zeroth index. So you can just write here, let's say list of the account, and you can just write it. Okay. Similarly, if I want to get the opportunity data, so you can just pass here the, let's say, ECMA1. Okay, and you will get the opportunity record. You can store that particular opportunity record inside a list and you can process that. Okay. Using the SOSL query, you can also write like using the bracket notation, as well as you can go for the also the dynamic query, that means in the form of the strings. Okay. So if I'm talking about the difference between the SOQL and SOSL, okay. So if you want to count the number of the record meeting the criteria, which query we need to go, you can use the using the SOQL query, you can do it, not using the SOSL. Uh, you want to you want data from the one object or the multiple related objects. In that scenario, we need to go for the SOQL, sorry. SOQL is the best option. Okay. If you don't know which object the field or the data is resides, so in that scenario, we need to go for the SOSL. Okay. You want to sort the result as a part of the query. So you can sort any record based on the SQL query. You can sort based any record based on the SOSL also. Okay. You want the data from the number, date, and the checkbox field. That these type of field is going to return only the SQL. SOSL is going to return only for the let's say name and the email field. Okay. Not any other field. Okay. So phone and number is not going to return, and data is. Okay. So let's move to the next thing, is nothing but the DML. Okay. So DML is basically used to manipulate the record, or let's say if you want to insert the record, if you want to update the record, if you want to delete the record. Okay. So for that, we need to use the DML. Okay. So anyone can tell me what are the option for the first one? Either here we need to use which DML, either insert, update, or the delete. Which DML we need to use for the first scenario? Anyone? Update. Okay, that's right. Okay, what about the second one? Create a new instance of the contact in the memory, persist in this into the URL. So for that, we need to use the insert. Okay. Okay. All right. User were incorrectly entered as a contact through the UI, retrieve those contact into memory and use their ID and remove from the OR. So here what we need to do, we need to go for the delete. Okay. Then the next thing is the create a new contact in the memory. Also the modify the existing contact in the where loaded into the memory using the SQL query. Use a single command to persist the new and modify. So for that we need to use the upsert whenever we want to update as well as the insert. So in that time we need to go for the upsert. Okay. So last one is that actually the contact remove in the scenario 3 were created correctly. They use the SQL query to retrieve those contacts from the cycle bin and bin into the memory and restore that. So for that, we need to use for the undelete. Okay, right. Okay, so here, let's say I have created the two contact. Okay, I have created the uh, it will be, I think it will be the 45 days. Okay, so here here what will happen here what we are trying to do it here. I have just created the scenario 5 is basically used for the undeleting the record. Okay, so here what we are doing here, we have just created the contact object reference. So let's say I have just given the contact with the name. Okay, and here I have given the last name. In the second contact I have not given the last name, and I have created the list. In this particular list I have added the both things. Okay, and I'm trying to insert it. So whenever I'm trying to insert it any contact, okay, so last name is required. And if you have given the last, if you have not given the last name, definitely it is going to throw an exception. Okay, it is going to definitely throw an exception. Okay, so what will happen if you want to insert the record, if you want to insert the any record. Okay, let's say I'm trying to insert the two records, but one of the record having the issues. Okay, so how I can insert that? So if you are using the standalone DML operation, so in that time you can't insert the record. So if you want to insert the record, so what we need to do, if you want to insert the partially record, so what we need to do, we need to go for the database dot insert, and here you need to pass the true values. Oh, sorry, here you need to pass the false value if you want to, insert the partial record. So by default, if you are writing the standalone YAML operations, either if you are writing the here, let's say database dot insert, okay. So in the both scenario, you are going to get only the, you are going to, you are not going to, let's say if you want to insert the two record, okay. So if any one of the record having the issue, you can't create it. Either you are going for the standalone DML operations, either you are going for the database dot insert. So if you are going for the database dot insert, and if you have given here the, if you are not given here the false value, so by default the value will be the true. And if you want to insert the partial record, so here you need to just write the database dot insert, and here you need to pass the false. Okay. Okay. So here it is asking which of the block is going to throw the exception. So here in this particular code, there is no exception because I have just created the list, and I'm just trying to insert that particular list. So here for this, there is no exception. Okay. For this, here I have not given the last name. Last name is mandatory to insert the contact. So here it is going to throw me exception. The exception will be the system.dml exception. The next thing is that in the example third, here I'm trying to assign the null value. So here it is going to throw the again the exception. Okay. In the second part, here I'm trying to execute this particular for loop to the 175 times. What I'm trying to do it here, I'm trying to execute this particular for loop 175 times. Okay. So as you know, in the Salesforce we can perform only 150 DML operations. So again, it is going to throw an MA and an exception. In the last one here, it is going to here last name field value maximum you can assign only the, let's say, I think 80 characters. Okay. And this is going to given, it is going to give the value more than the 80 character. So that's the reason it is going to throw the again the exception. Okay. uh the next thing is that how we are going to handle the exception. So why this particular piece of code is going to throw the exception? So see, just see here. Here I have just created the list of the integers. Okay. And here I have given, let's say 1, 2, 3. Okay. And in this particular value, what I'm going to do it, I'm just going to store the value. So let's say size equal to, I have just given the number 3 numbers dot size. So what is going to give? It is going to just give me the 3. Okay. And in the fourth, in this particular line, what I'm going to do, I'm just going to get the value from the third index. And whenever you are trying to refer any list, so list index is started from the 0, and here you have given the size as a 3. So what is going to happen? It is going to throw the exception. Okay. Because list is going to start from the 0th. So here you are trying to access the third value. So it is going to throw the exception. Okay. And whenever you are trying to write any logic, okay, and if you have, let's say you have written the try and catch block, okay, so any exception it will come, so it will go from the catch block. If there is no exception, it's going to come here. Okay. So once the exception will come, it is going to go for the catch block. So in the catch block, either you can just give here the specific exception, either you can give here the general exception. Okay. And if you have written the final block, so final block is always going to execute it either if there is a exception, either if there is no exception. Okay. Inside your code. Okay. So the next thing is that the governor limit. Okay. So in the Salesforce, for the each transaction, we have the governor limit. Okay. For the each transaction, we have the governor limit. Like, let's say whenever we are trying to execute any code, okay, well, let's say I have written a code. Okay. And that particular code is going to execute it. So for the SQL query, we have the, let's say we can just write it 100 SQL query. Okay. For the DML operation, we can perform only 150 DML operation. For the heap size, we have the 6 MB. For the CPU times, we have the exception. Okay. So these exception is going to these governor limit is basically based on the a single transaction. Okay. So see here, what is the problem in this particular code? So here we are trying to execute, no. Okay, so here what we are trying to do it, here we are trying to execute this particular query more than 100 times. Okay, here we are trying to execute it 101 times. Okay, so as you already knows, we can write only the 100 SQL query. Okay, so in that time what is going to happen, it is going to throw an exception. Okay, so whenever we are going to write the query, okay, you can write only the 100 SQL query at a single transaction. Okay. Okay. So the next thing is that here it is asking what is the problem in this particular code. So the problem in this particular code is nothing but, see here, they have just written a query. They have just written here the code. Just give me a second. They have just written here the code, and they are just trying to update that particular value within the for loop. So assume that if this particular list is going to give you a 200 record, and you already knows in a single apex transaction you can perform only the 150 DML operations. So if this particular list is going to give you 200 records, so in that time we are hitting the governor limit. Okay, so try to avoid the DML operation inside the for loop. So how we can achieve that? So what we can do, we can create a list, and in this particular list we can add the value, and outside of the for loop we can perform that particular DML operations. Okay, here again one more problem is that here it might be it might be hit the heap size error. Okay, so to avoid the heap size error, what we can do it, we can just write the first query here, and that particular list we can pass it here, and then we can like if I want to modify it, so what we can do it, we can create a list and we can add that particular value, and outside of the for loop we can update that particular list. Okay, all right. So let's start this lesson 5. Okay. Okay. So here we are going to talk about the Apex classes and Apex trigger. What are the best practices? Okay. Then we are going to talk about the Apex governor limit for the each transactions. Okay. Then we are going to talk about the order of execution. Okay. So if I want to write any Apex classes, so how we can write? So if you want to just write for any classes for the general purpose, so you can just give here that purpose and that particular class name. If I want to write any class name, if I want to write any class for the Apex trigger handler, so what we can do here, we can just write here, let's say Apex. Let's say if I want to write any class, so you can just give here, let's say count trigger handler for the trigger. If we want to write any test class, so you can just write here, let's say count trigger handler slash test. Okay, if I want to write any test classes for the data factory classes, so you can just write here, let's say test data factory. Okay, if you want to write any class for the, let's say visual force pages or the, let's say LWC controller, so you can just write it like this. Okay, so you can give any class name, that's fine. Okay, but these are the best practices. Uh, there will be the seven lessons, sorry. Okay, so basically you can give any class name. Okay, but these are the best practices whenever you are writing any class. Okay, so how we can write the interfaces? So here you can just write, let's say public interfaces, and here you can just write here the custom paginator. So let's say this is the interfaces. So what is the interfaces? Interfaces have the incomplete method. Okay, and if you want to access the method, that particular method, so what you can do, what you can do here, you can just implement that particular, you can just using the implements keyword, you can access that particular uh, interface method inside your class. Okay, using the virtual class, you can also import that particular method, but the thing is that if you are using the virtual classes, so virtual class method you can optimize it, you can override that particular method, but interface method you can't override it. Okay, the next thing is that the next thing is that okay, the next thing is that if I want to define here the any classes. So first thing is that the we need to give here the access modifier. Okay, then either you want to give here the with sharing, either you don't want to give here the with sharing. Okay, and if you want to just define here the simple data type, so you can just write here, let's say public data type and that particular variable name. Okay, okay, okay. So these are the some best practices while writing these like defining any class. Okay, so if I want to declare any variable, so you can just write here, let's say public that particular data type, any data types, let's say string, and you can just give any name. Okay, similar way, if I want to give here the if I want to give here the any data type, so let's say you can just if I want to give here any getter and setter type of the data type, so you can just give here the get and set. Okay, if I want to define here the constructor, so you can just write here, let's say public and my class, and here you can just give a the constructor. Okay, then here you can just define, if you want to define any method, so you can define like this. Okay, will the method is in head sharing? I'll tell you the next slides. Okay, so we have the access modifier, like we have the global, public, protected, and private. Okay, so global means if you have declared a variable as a global, so that particular variable you can access within the Salesforce as well as the outside of the Salesforce. If you have declared any classes as a, let's say public, so that particular class you can access within the Salesforce, not outside of the Salesforce. Okay, protected is not applicable for the classes, and private will be the, let's say if you have defined any classes as a private, so by default their class member, their variable, their methods. Okay, you can access that particular method within that particular class, not outside, not outside of that particular class. Okay, so here we have the it with sharing and the without sharing. What is the meaning of that? So with sharing is nothing but, let's say uh, if you have defined any class as a with sharing, so what is going to happen, it is going to take care of your record level security. That means if you have any record object, if you have, let's say you have just created a class. Okay, and in that particular class you have created a method, and in that particular method you have just written a simple query. So let's say you have just written select id comma name from the account. So might be in your record, in your object you have the 20 records. Okay, but if you have given as a class as a with sharing, so out of that it is going to show you only those record whichever you have the access. So let's say if you have the 5 account access, so it is going to just return you the 5. So that is the use of the with sharing. And if you have not given as any class as a with sharing, so by default it will be the without sharing. Either you can give the without sharing specific. Okay, inherit sharing is nothing but is if you have called any class from the with sharing, so by default it is going to take care of the property of the with sharing. If you have called any class from the without sharing, it is going to take care of the property of the without sharing. Okay, so whenever if you are trying to execute any class from the if you are trying to if you are trying to execute any class from the let's say in honest windows, and that time it is going to check your uh, like either you have the card level access, either you have the field level access, do you have or not. Okay, but if you are trying to run any class from the test classes, from the test trigger, from the web services, from the another classes, in that time it is not going to check your field level security. It is not going to check your the either you have the create, edit, delete access or not. Okay, so the next thing is that we are going to talk about the how we can include the securities inside the X classes. So here we have the very simple example. So let's say I have just written here the query, select the name from the account name, SSN from the contact. Okay. So let's say if I want to check if I have all the field access, in that time it should return the data. Okay. So how we can achieve that? So what you can do? You can just include the with security infos. So what is going to check? It is going to check your field level security. And if any one of the field object you don't have the access, if any one of the field you don't have the access, so in that time it is going to throw an exception. It is going to throw an exception and none of the data is going to return. So that is the use case of the with security enforced. Okay. So so here let's say I don't have the access of the SSN field, so it is not going to return the any of the record, but that's not right. So what the Salesforce introduces? Salesforce introduces this security dot strip in accessible. So what is going to do? It is going to just strip that particular field. So let's say if I don't have the access for the SSN field, so what is going to do? It is not going to return the data of the SSN. Rest of the field data is going to return. So that is the use case of the security dot stripped and accessible. So what is going to do? It is going to check either you have the read access or not. So if you don't, let's say for the one of the field you don't have the read access. So in that time, what is going to do? It is going to exclude that particular field. Okay, and rest of the field data it is going to return. And sometime might be using the Apex describe information. So you can check either you have the create access, either you have the read access for any object or either any field. You can check that. Okay. Next thing is that we are going to talk about the Apex trigger. Okay, so what is the Apex trigger? So Apex trigger is basically whenever you are trying to create any record, whenever you are trying to update any record, so in that time the trigger is going to execute it. Okay, so here there is two places where the trigger is going to execute it. First place is that here. Okay, and another place is that here. Okay, so this thing I will tell you in the when I will cover the order of execution. Okay, so here the your before trigger is going to execute it, here your after trigger is going to execute it. So whenever you are trying to create any record, whenever you are trying to update any record, whenever you are trying to delete any record, so in that time your Apex trigger is going to execute it. Okay, so here before trigger is going to execute it before that particular record save inside your database. So see here, these are the two database. So here your record is going to save, here you will get the ID, but the commit is not happen. Commit is going to happen over here. Okay, so your before trigger is going to execute it whenever your record is going to save inside the database, and after trigger is going to execute it whenever you have saved any record. Okay, and when we need to go for the before trigger, when we need to go for the after trigger, so whenever you want to perform any operation on the same object. Okay, so in that time we need to go for the before trigger. If I want to perform any operation in the related object or unrelated object, okay, so in that time we need to go for the after trigger. Okay, so whenever you need the record ID of any field, okay, so in that time we need to go for the after trigger. So how we can write the trigger? So here you can just write here the trigger and the trigger name and on which this is the on here again keyword and for which object you want to write that particular trigger. And these are the events like before insert, before update, before delete, after insert, after update, after delete. Okay, and after and delete. We have these 7 events. Okay. So where this particular we have in the trigger we have the context variables. Okay, so let's say we have the age insert, we have the is before. So age insert and is before is applicable for the all the triggers. Okay, trigger.new is applicable only for the insert, update and the undelete, and trigger.new is going to give you the whatever the new version, whatever the new record is going to come. Okay, so it is going to give that. Okay, then we have the new map, so it is going to give the value in the form of ID and the that particular object. Okay, and it is applicable only for the before update, after insert, after update and after undelete. Okay, then we have the old. So trigger.old is going to give the previous value, like previous version of the object. Okay, and it is applicable only for the update and delete. Okay, similarly we have the old map. So old map is again going to give the value in the form of ID and that particular object, and it is also applicable only for the update and delete. Okay, then we have the size. So size is going to return the like how many record we are processing. Okay, that is going to return by the size, and it is also applicable for the all the trigger. Then we have the is executing. So executing is going to return like either this particular piece of the code is run through the trigger or not. So that for that, if you want to check for that, we need to use the is executing. Okay. Then we have the operation type. So in the operation type, you can also check the this particular trigger is going to execute it for the insert. This particular trigger is going for the executed for the before insert. Okay, so for that we need to use for the operation types. So let's say if I have the multiple trigger event, okay, so let's say we have the before insert, before update, after update. Okay, let's say if I want to if I want to execute a certain logic on the before insert, so how we can do that? So here we can just check either this particular trigger is going to execute it on the trigger dot is before. So trigger dot is before here what is going to do, what is going to check, it is going to just check either this will be the before inside trigger event or not. Then here we can check one more condition. Let's say trigger dot is inside. So trigger dot is inside is going to check either this particular event is the insert event or not. Okay. So if you have the multiple DML event, so if using this, using like this, you can perform, you can just check it, which event you want executed when. Okay. Using the operation type, it is going to work as the same. Okay. So the operation type is recently introduced. Okay. So here you can also check either you want to execute this particular logic on the before insert, either you want to execute this particular logic on the before update or after update. Okay. So you can do that. Okay. So whenever you want to execute any logic, okay, so what you can do, you can pass any trigger dot new map. You can pass the trigger dot new, and you can pass the trigger dot new new map. Okay, you can pass the trigger dot old map, you can pass the trigger dot old. Okay, so what is going to give trigger dot new? Trigger dot new is going to give you the list of the record, list of that particular object. Okay, and try to check whenever you are trying to update anything, whenever you are trying to check it, make sure you should check what is the previous value and what is the current value. If both value are not equal, so in that time you can perform a certain logics. Don't try to perform any logic always, because see, if you are writing any logic, if you are trying to perform any certain logic in the always, so it might be hit the governor limit. So that is not best practices. So what do you need to do? You can just check the previous value and you can check the after value. Guys, can you hear me? Okay, Lipsira, just check your from your end. I don't think so there is any problem from my end. Okay. Yep. Okay. So in the trigger dot new, we can pass at a time we can pass maximum the 200 record. Okay, not more than that. Okay. Okay, so using the add error, let's say if I want to perform, if I want to just show any error message. Okay, so using the add error, using the add error method, we can perform any error. Okay, and if I want to perform let's say, so add error is basically going to give you the top, at the top of the page, it is going to just display the error message. Okay, if you want to display any error message on any field, so what you can do here, you can just write here, let's cd dot that particular field, which field you want to display that particular error message, so you can just write that. Okay, so if I'm talking about the event, so we have the inside event. So in the before inside event, we can use only the trigger dot new. Okay, in the after inside event, we can use the trigger dot new map, and we can use the trigger dot new, and we can use the trigger dot new map, both things. Okay, in the update event, we can use everything, like we can use the trigger dot new, we can use the trigger dot new map, we can use the trigger dot old, we can use the trigger dot old map. Similar way for the after. In the delete event, in the before delete, we can use the only the trigger dot old, and we can use the trigger dot old map. In the after delete, we can use the trigger dot old, and we can use the trigger dot old map. Okay, in the undelete, we don't have the before and delete, we have the only after and delete. In the after and delete, we can use the trigger dot new and trigger dot new map. Okay, so the next thing is that we are going to discuss about the order of execution. So what is the order of execution? Order of execution is nothing but it is going to tell us, let's say we have the workflow, we have the trigger, we have the process builder, okay, we have the flows. So which one is going to execute it first, which is one is going to execute it second, which one is going to execute it last, okay. So this thing is nothing but going to tell about the nothing but the order of execution only, okay. So here here uh order of execution, one second. So let's say I'm trying to create a record. Okay, so let's say I have a form. Okay, let's say I'm trying to create a account record. Okay, so let's say I have entered the account name, rating, everything I have entered. Okay, so once I will try to save that particular record. Okay, so what is going to happen? Once that particular record is trying to hit the database. Okay, so when the DML operation is going to execute it. So whenever you are trying to perform any DML operation, whenever you are trying to update or insert or delete any record, so in that time, what is going to happen? One order of execution is going to execute it. Okay. So first thing is that what will happen? So here we have the two kind of the database. Here, first in the first database, once your record is going to save inside the database, you will get the record ID, but that particular record is not going to commit. It is going to commit over here. Okay, so so the first thing is that what are the things is going to happen before saving the record inside the database, which operation is going to execute it. So first thing is that whenever you are trying to create any record, so first thing is that your record is going to initialize. Okay, if it is the new record, if it is the if you are trying to update any record, so first thing is that it is going to fetch that particular record from the database. Okay, and it is going to update that. Okay, so first thing is that your record initialization is going to happen. Second thing is that your system validation rule, that means whatever the validation rule is written by the Salesforce, that is going to execute it. Third thing is that your before trigger, here in the line third, your before trigger is going to execute it. Then after that, your custom validation rule, whatever the validation rule you have written, those thing is going to execute it. Then your duplicate rule is going to execute it. Then that particular record is going to save it inside your database. So what is going to first happen? Your in the first step, your initialization will going to happen. Second step is that your system validation rule is going to execute it. Third step is that your before trigger is going to execute it. Fourth step is that your custom validation rule, whatever the validation rule you have written, that is going to execute it. Then duplicate rule is going to execute it. And here you are going to save that particular record and you are going to get that particular record ID. Okay. So the next thing is that when our workflow rule is going to execute it and when our after trigger is going to execute it. So after this, once the record is saved inside your database, then after that your after trigger is going to execute it. Then if you have any workflow rule, so that is going to execute it. Then in the workflow rule, we can perform the four tasks. One is the task creation, another one is send email, third one is the outbound messages, fourth one is the field update. So whenever the in the workflow rule, whenever you are trying to update any field, okay. So whenever you are trying to update the any field, so again it is going to back here. Okay, it is happening only whenever you are trying to update any field. Okay, so whenever you will try to update any field, so again your apex trigger is going to execute it, your before update trigger is going to execute it. Again your system validation rule is going to execute it, not custom validation rule is custom validation rule is not going to execute it. Then that particular record is going to save inside your database again. Okay, then again your after update trigger is going to execute it. So this will happen whenever you are updating any field using the workflow rule. Similar way, a similar way for the process builder. So in the process builder, after this your process builder is going to execute it. But in the process builder again, if you are trying to update any field, so again it is going to back here. So again, what will happen? Again, your before update trigger is going to execute it. Then system validation as well as the custom validation is going to execute it. No, we can't share this slide. Okay. Once again. Yep. Okay. So here, whenever you are trying to update any field using the process builder, okay, so here before update trigger is going to execute it, then your system validation is going to execute it, and your all the custom validation rule is going to execute it. Then you are saving that particular record inside your database. Okay, then it is going to update. Here you are updating that, but here your after update is going to execute it. Okay, then your workflow rule again is going to execute it. Okay, if you are trying to update any field using the process builder. Similar way, after this, what is going to happen? Your flow is going to execute it. So using the flow, you can also update any field. Okay, so whenever you are trying to update any field using the flow, so again, what will happen? Again, your before update trigger is going to execute it. Then your system validation rule as well as the custom validation rule, those things are also going to execute it. Then your then that particular record is going to save inside your database. Okay, then your again your after update trigger is that is also going to execute it. Okay, then the next thing is that your roll up summary field. Yep, that's right. So here in this particular step, your roll up summary field and your class object formula field, those things is going to execute it. So if you are trying to update any field, okay, because they have built like this, so that's the reason it is going to execute it twice. Okay, so here your ruler summary field is going to execute it. Then here your evaluation criteria rule is going to execute it. Then that particular record is saved inside your database. Okay, then here your post commit logic, let's say for the sending email alert, those thing is going to execute it. Your if you have any future methods, so those thing is going to execute it here. Okay, so what will be the problem of the rule of summary field? So roll up summary field, what is going to do? It is going to start one more order of executions. Okay, what is going to happen? It is going to, whenever you are trying to execute, whenever you are trying to calculate the roll of summary field. So whenever the roll of summary field is going to calculate it, it is going to start one more order of executions. Okay, at the parent level, and the commit for this particular roll up summary field and for this particular things is going to happen in a single. There will be the not two commits, only one commit is going to happen. Okay, so this is the thing. So first let me just give you the basic idea. So here in the first step, your record initialization is going to happen. Second is your system validation rule. Third one is the your before trigger. Fourth one is your custom validation rule. Okay, here your if you have written any if you have written here the if you have written here the any rules, so that is going to execute it. Then after that your record is going to save inside your database. Then your after trigger is going to be executed. Then you have the assignment rule that is going to execute it here. Okay, then your workflow rule is going to execute it. Then your escalation rule, then your process builder is going to execute it. Then your entitlement rule is going to execute it. Then here your flow is going to execute it. Then here your roll up summary field is going to execute it. Then here your criteria based sharing rule. Then that particular record is going to commit inside your database. Then your email outbound messages, future notation, those things is going to execute it here. Okay, no, it will be a single transaction only. Okay, so if let's say if there is any failure. Okay, come on. Okay, so first thing is that your record is going to load. Okay. Second thing is that your system validation rule is going to execute it. Then your before trigger is going to execute it. Sorry. Before trigger is going to execute it. Then your custom validation rule is going to execute it. Then if you have any duplicate rule, that is going to execute it. Then that particular record is saved inside your database. Then after trigger, then your workflow, then process builder, then flow, then your work pull-up summary field, then your criteria based sharing rule, then that particular record is going to commit inside your database, then post commit logic is going to execute it. Okay. So it is asking what will happen if there is any failure. So let's say here I'm trying to insert the account as well as I'm trying to insert the contact. So let's say if there is a failure is going to happen here. So what will happen? It is going to start one more order of execution. Okay. And if any one of this going to fail, let's say it's here, if any one of these thing is going to fail, so what is happen? Complete thing is going to roll back and none of thing is going to commit inside your database. Guys, just give me 1 minute. Guys, can you hear me now? Okay, thank you. Let's talk about the platform event. So what is the platform event? So platform event is basically used whenever uh, let's say if you want to send the data from one let's say from the Salesforce to another system. Okay. Or from one system to another system. Okay. So in that time we need to use for the platform event. Okay. 1 minute, guys. Okay. So platform event basically used whenever we want to send data from the Salesforce to any other system. Okay. Or from the within the Salesforce to one Salesforce to another Salesforce. In that scenario, we need to go for the platform event. Okay. So here you can ask me why we are going for the okay. So here it is asking here you can ask me the questions. Okay. When we can go for the what is the use of platform event? We can go for the integration. Let's say if I want to send the data from one system to another system, yeah, definitely you can do that. Okay, definitely you can do that. So but the platform event is basically used, it is going to provide you the security. Second thing is that if you are writing okay, I'll try to manage it. Okay, sorry for that. Okay. uh okay. You know, like we have only the 3 hours and we need to wrap up the lot of the syllabus. Okay. So that's the reason might be you feel like I'm quite fast. Okay, so but yeah, I'll try to manage it. Sorry for that. Okay. Okay. Okay, so after this particular lesson, let's have the break for the 10 minutes. Okay, then we'll come back, then we'll start it. Okay, sorry for that. Okay. 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 So we are discussing about the platform event. So platform event is basically used whenever we want to send the data from the one system to another system. Okay. So let's say you are going for the integrations. Okay. So using the integration, you can send the data from the one system to another system. But if you are going through the integration, so there will be the time lagging. Okay. You need to write the first thing is that you need to write the code. Okay. A lot of the code you need to write. Okay, you can write the code. First thing, you need to write the code to send the data from the one system to another system. Second thing is that you need to take care of the securities. Okay, security things also. Okay, so these thing is avoided by the platform event. So platform event is basically taking care of the security. Okay, as well as if you are sending the data using the platform event. Okay, so it is going to take very less time as compared to the REST API or any SOAP APIs. Okay, so platform event is basically work on the PubSub model. Okay, so there will be the one publisher, another is the one another will be the one subscriber. So publisher is nothing but who is going to publish that particular event, who is going to that publish that particular message. That is nothing but the publisher, and a subscriber is nothing but who is going to subscribe that, who is going to just listen that. Okay, so here might be there will be the uh, one event producer is nothing but who is going to produce that particular event, and there will be the one event consumer. Okay, who is going to consume that particular event. And if I want to send the data uh, from the let's say publisher to the consumer, so in that time we need to so that data is going to take care by the if event bus. Okay, so using the event bus you can send the data from the one system to another systems. Okay, so event bus is basically used to like publish the data, like it is going to use to just carry the data from the one system to another system. Okay, so here publisher might be any external apps, it might be your Apex classes in the Salesforce platform. It might be Apex classes, your process builder or flow, anything. Okay, as a publisher it is going to work. Similar way as a subscriber, also your platform event, your platform in the Salesforce platform, it might be your Apex classes, it might be your Apex flow. In the external app, it might be the your REST API, your SOAP API as a publisher. Okay, it might be a work. Okay, and whenever we want to send the data from the publisher to subscriber, it is that particular data is going to taken care by the platform event bus. Okay, so if I'm going to compare the difference between the platform event and the platform object. See, no, LWC page is not a platform, not a event subscriber or not. No, you need to write the classes. So classes and process builder and flow, these are going to take care of the uh, uh, publisher as well as a subscriber. Okay, so if I'm comparing between the difference between the custom object and the platform event. So a platform event API name is going to end with the underscore in e. Okay, where the custom object is going to end underscore the c. Okay, uh, in the platform event you can perform only the inside operation, but in the custom object you can perform the inside, update, delete, every operation you can perform. Okay, platform event you cannot see the in the UI platform event. You cannot see in the UI, but custom object data you can see in the UI. Okay. Next thing is that platform event data you cannot write any SQL query or SSL query. Okay. But custom object data you can write the SQL query, you can write the SSL query. Okay. So how we can publish that particular platform event? So let's say I have created a method, and in this particular method I have these messages, list of the messages. So if I want to add that particular method, so what I need to do, I need to create the, let's say I have created the event messages, okay, underscore e I have given. And if I want to publish that, so this is nothing but the my event name, my platform event name. Okay. So if I want to publish that, if I want to send the data, so what we can do here, we can just iterate this particular list over here. Okay. And I can add that particular message value over here. Okay. And if I want to publish is that, so you need to just write here the event bus dot publish. Okay. So publish method is going to use to just publish that particular platform event. Okay. So here we are sending that particular data, and I already told you, um, in the Salesforce, your Salesforce is also going to work as a publisher, as well as it is also going to work as a subscriber. So let's say if I want to just listen that particular method, so what we can do, we can just write here the subscriber. So in the subscriber, we can just, in the platform event, we can just write here the uh, any trigger. Okay. So in the platform event, we can write the trigger, and this particular trigger is supported only the after inside event, none of the any other event. So whatever the message you have sent it as a publisher, so that particular message is already stored in the trigger.new. And if you want to iterate that, so you can just write here the for each loop and you can iterate it. Okay. So if you want to, let's say I have written a platform event, so if I want to resume that particular event, resume means, or if I want to suspend that, so let's say I'm sending the data, now I want to suspend for the, let's say 2 or 3 days, we can do that. Okay. And let's say if I want to resume that, so you can also do that. We can also checking the running state, either it will be the hold, either it is running. Okay. Okay. So in the platform event, we have the two things. One is the resume, and we have the resume from the tip. Okay. What is the difference between them? So difference between them, resume means, let's say you are getting the data, okay, from the another system. Okay. So let's say you have suspended that particular platform event, now you won't get any data. Okay. Now whenever you are resuming that, so whatever the new data is going to whatever the, there is another third party system, so whatever the new data third party system is going to give, you are going to get only those data. But if you click on the resume from the tip, so what is happen? So let's say if you are not, if you are not accepting the data, let's say for that 3 days. Okay. So all the data is already stored inside the queues. Okay. So if you want to get the previous data also, so what you can do, you can just press the resume from the tip. So whatever the previous data is also there, so you can also get that. Okay. So what we can do it, let's take a break. Okay. Let's take a break. 1 second. Okay, so it's 6:30. So as per my time zone, so let's take a 10-minute break. Okay, so let me just start the timer. Okay, so let me. As per now, there is no limit how long it is going to store. Okay. So let's take a break and come back. Yeah, guys, there will be the one discount code. Okay. I will share you. Okay, at the end of the session. Just give me a second. All right. Okay. So in this particular lessons, we are going to talk about the user interfaces. Okay. Uh, here we are going to just talk about the very basic about the visual post pages. Okay. Then we are going to talk about the compatibility about the visual force pages with the lightning component. Okay, then we are going to talk about the lightning component framework and their benefits. Okay, then we are going to just talk about the lightning web component. Okay, then we are going to just give you some uh, basic idea about the user interfaces and data accessibility. Okay, and the security, all those stuff. Okay, and then we are also going to talk about the lightning component event and the application events, how it is going to work. Okay, so here we are going to just talk about the very basic things. Okay, here we are not going to much in details. Okay, just very basic things. Okay, so let's start. So uh, first thing is that we are just going to talk about the visual force page. Okay, so what is the visual force page? Visual force page is nothing but it's a UI page. Okay, which is built on the basically on the HTML and CSS. Okay, it is also applicable for the lightning as well as the classic. Okay, and so let's say you have certain requirement, might be you are which is not achievable using the standard page. Okay, so in that scenario we need to go for the visual force page. Okay, so to achieve the any requirement inside the visual force page, might be you need to write the some apex classes. Okay, so that is going to work as a controller, or it is going to work as an extension inside your visual force page. Okay, so what is the visual force page? So visual force page is basically going to contain the HTML, visual force page tags, JavaScript and the CSS. Okay, so visual force page is going to contain these files. Okay, so either you inside the visual force page, either you can write any HTML tag, either you can write any visual force page tag, either you can write the JavaScript tags. Okay, either you can write the CSS. Okay, so these things are, sorry. Okay, so these things you can write it. Okay, either you can write HTML's visual force page, each HTML, JavaScript, visual force page standard tag as well as the CSS. Okay, so in the visual force page we have the standard controller, we have the standard list controller, we have the custom controller, and we have the custom controller extension. So what is the use of standard controller? So let's say uh, if we have any requirement, okay, which is almost similar to the standard page. Okay, if you have any requirement which is similar to the standard page. Okay, so in that scenario we need to go for the standard controller. Okay, then what is the use of standard list controller? So standard list controller is used, let's say if you want to get a set of the record. Okay, let's say you want to get a list of the record without writing the apex class. Okay, in that scenario we need to go for the standard list controller. Okay, then we have the custom controller. So custom controller is basically used custom controller is basically used whenever, let's say, you have any complex requirement. Okay, which is not achievable using the standard controller as well as a standard list controller. Okay, so in that scenario you need to go for the custom controller. Okay, Next thing is that we have the custom control extension. So custom control extension is also in the custom controller as well as the custom control extension. We can also write the Apex class, but the difference is that custom controller extension is used custom controller extension used. Let's say you have already built any requirement. Okay, now you want to build a one more requirement. So what you can do, rather than doing the changes in the same code, same Apex class code, what you can do, you can create a new class. Okay, you can create a new class, you can build, you can write their functionality over that particular class, and that particular class you can add in the page as a extension. So that is nothing but the custom controller extension. Okay, so in the Visual Force page, if I'm comparing with the out of the box functionality at the Visual Force page as well as the Visual Force page, so controller is nothing but the class. Okay, controller is nothing but the Apex class. Okay, so if I'm comparing that, so in the model we are in the Visual Force page and out of box functionality, we are both using the standard object and the custom object. Okay, in the as a controller we are using the standard controller. Here we are using the standard controller, custom controller as well as the controller extension. And if you want to see something, so you can use the page layout, but here we are going to use the page Visual Force page. Okay, so if I want to launch any Visual Force page, how I can launch? Okay, so you can launch any Visual Force pages from the URL. Okay, so from the URL you can launch. Okay, you can create any button or link, that is another way. Okay, you can override any action. Okay, you can override action, so that is another way. Okay, uh, you can create any tab. Okay, so you can using creation of the tab, you can also while creating the tab, you can also access the Visual Force page. Okay, you can add any Visual Force page as an inline. That means in the standard page, in the standard page layout, you can add the Visual Force page. You can create any action. Okay, you can create any action. Okay, you can add the any Visual Force pages inside the Lightning app builder. So wherever you are seeing as a red marks, okay, red stick, that means there you should write the standard controller. So if you want to create any button, or if you want to call any button or link, okay, so make sure you should given the standard controller. Okay, let's say if I want to call any Visual Force page inside the page layout, standard page layout. Okay, so in that scenario you need to write the standard controller and whatever the wherever you want to display that. Okay, so if you want to override the standard action, so again you need to write the standard controller over there. So here let's say if I have used this standard controller is equal to, let's say, courses. Okay, so we need to whenever we are using the standard controller, so is in the standard controller we need to give the object API name. Okay, the next thing is that if I want to access any field inside the Visual Force page, so how do we can access? So first thing, we need to write the Apex input field value equal to, here we need to first give the object API name dot that particular field API name. Okay, and here we need to give the exclamatory sign. Okay, so that's how if I want to access any field, so you can access like this. But if I want to access any global field, if I want to access any global field, let's say I want to access the any static resource, or if I want to access the any Visual Force page, any other Visual Force page name, if I want to access the any user field. Okay, so what we need to do, after the exclamatory sign, we need to give here the dollar. So if you have given the dollar, that means this particular field is the coming from the global variable. This particular field is coming from the global variable. Okay, so let's say if I have written here the standard controller is equal to the account, and if I want to go to the parent object, okay, so I can go to the 5 level up using the standard controller. And if I want to go to the down, so I can go only 1 level down. Okay, in the parent to child relationship, I can go only 1 level down, but in here we can go up to the 5 level up. Okay, so let's say I have a requirement. What is my requirement? Let's say I'm in the account object and I want to access the certification held. This is the nothing but held object is nothing but a certification held. Okay, so how I can access? Just now I have told you, if I want to go 1 level down, so I can go like from the account level, I can access the contact. But if I want to go one more level down, that is not possible using the standard controller. So using the standard controller, either you can go up to the 5 level up, either you can go to the 1 level down, but you can't go to the one more level down. So whenever you have any requirement which you can't achieve it using the standard controller, okay, so in that scenario we need to go for the custom controller or custom controller extension. Okay, or you can go for the extension. So here if you want to define any method, so how we can define, you can just write here, let's say public page reference. Page reference is basically used if you want to move from the one page to another page. Okay, so for that we need to use the page reference. Okay, then here we can define any property as a get comma set. So and we can also define here the method as a get comma set. So get method is basically used to retrieve the data from the controller, to retrieve the data from the Apex class and that give that particular data to the page. Setter method is used, that is the use of that getter. Getter method is basically used to just get the data from the controller, from the Apex class, and give that particular data to the page. But setter is used to just set the data, like get the data from the page and set that particular data to the controller. So that is the use case of the set. Okay, setter. So in which scenario we need to go for the controller, in which scenario we need to go for the custom controller, in which scenario we need to go for the extension. So a controller extension will always come with the extension basically comes with the always the standard controller. Custom, in the custom controller you no need to go for the standard controller. Okay, custom controller and standard controller won't exist in the same page. Okay, so let's say if I have a requirement, you want to use the functionality already existing in the standard or the custom controller you are using in the page. How you can achieve that? So for that, you need to go for the controller extension. You can create one more classes and you can build your functionality and you can use that particular class as an extension. Okay. The next thing is that you need to use your page with declarative Salesforce feature that depend on the standard controller, such as creating a custom button or including a page within the page layout. So if you have used the standard controller and now you want to extend your functionality, okay, so in that scenario we need to go for the extension only. Okay, the next thing is that you need a controller for the custom visual force page component. So whenever you want to write any Apex classes for the visual force page component, okay, so in that scenario we need to go for the controller, we need to go for the custom controller. Okay, all right. Visual force page. Okay, so component is nothing but okay, so let's say uh, if I'm talking about visual force page component, so let's say my requirement is that let's say might we have seen in any website, the header part of the website is fixed. Either you are moving to the, let's say 10 pages or the first pages or the third pages or second pages, wherever you are moving. But you have seen, you are seeing like the the header part is fixed. Okay, so similar way in the visual force page, whenever you have any kind of the fixed things, okay, so in that scenario what we can do, we can create a component, visual force component, and we can include that particular component inside our visual force pages. Okay, okay, so here I have the some scenarios. Okay, so for which scenario we need to use the visual force pages standard controller, or we need to go for the extension, or the we need to go for the controller, custom controller. So let's say a quick create page allowing the user to create the account, contact, and opportunity from all of the one page. Either we need to use the standard controller or extension. So here we need to go for the custom controller. Okay, the next thing is that a page with the custom functionality that can be launched using the button or the page layout. So see here, whenever we want to call any page from the button, so in that scenario we need to go for the controller extension. Okay, because see, uh, I want to call any button, so button will always going to call from the standard controller. Button is going to call always from the standard controller, and whenever the standard controller came into the pictures, okay, you need to go for the extension. You need to go for the extension. Okay, the next is that a multi-page wizard which guide a user through the process of the designing a sales plan for them for a new customer. So in that scenario we need to go for the custom controller. Okay, see, you can't fix here. Let's say if you are going for the account, so you need to give here the standard controller is equal to the account. Here you are trying to implement the multiple object, not a single object. Okay, that's the reason we need to go for the custom controller. If it is the only one object, then definitely we can go for the extension. Okay, so the next question is that a page that on the saving a new certification record automatically redirect the user to a page where they can create a new related certification record. So in that scenario, we can go for the controller extension. Okay. Okay. So the next thing is that the standard list controller. Okay. What is the use of that? So standard list controller is basically used. Let's say I have created a page, and in that page I have given the let's say standard controller is equal to the account, and then let's say I have given the record set where is equal to the account. So what is going to give standard list gives controller is what is going to give without writing the apex classes. If you want to so only one level is possible, only one level possible. Let's say if I want to get one more, might be for the contact object, might be there is one more level, one more object is there, I want to get that particular data. How I can get that? It is not possible using the standard controller. Okay, so here in the standard list controller, basically see, 1 second. See, here you can achieve that particular requirement. uh, See, you need to use the, either you need to go for the extension, either you need to go for the either you need to, you can add the account as a, let's say you can add the account as a standard controller is equal to account. Okay, and if you want to extend that particular functionality, in that scenario you need to go for the extension. Okay, so here you are adding the standard controller as well as you need to add the extension. But rather than adding the standard controller, if your requirement is not let's say you have a requirement which is not specific for the any page, it is not specific for a particular object. Okay, in that scenario directly we can go for the custom controller. Definitely it is possible using the standard controller and as well as the extension. both thing is fine. Either you can go for the standard controller, either you can go for the standard either you can go for the standard controller with extension, either you can go for the custom controller. Okay, both thing is fine. Okay, but the best thing is that you can go for the custom controller. Clear? Okay. Okay. So standard list controller is basically used whenever you want to display a list of the record. Okay, whenever you want to display a list of the record, okay, without taking the help of the Apex classes. Okay, so if I want to get a list of the records, so here we can do, we can just write here the record set where, okay, equal to, we can give here the account. So what is going to happen, this account is going to get accounts, in the accounts value, in the accounts variable value, we have the list of the record. Okay, and if I want to display that particular record in the form of table, so what we can do, we can use here the Apex page block table. We can give the value is equal to accounts. Okay, value is equal to, let's say, SEC, and we can give here the column. So let's say column I want to give SEC dot name, SEC dot phone, whatever the value I want to display, so I can get that. So if you want to just get at the record from the backend without writing the Apex class code, so in that scenario, we can go for the standard list controller. Okay. All right. So let's talk about the Lightning component framework. Okay. So what is the problem inside the visual first page? Why we are going for the Lightning? So a visual first page, whenever the Salesforce have started, so Salesforce is started with the visual first page only. So before 2014, in the Salesforce, we have the only the visual first page only. After the 2014, Salesforce introduces Lightning component. So the problem is that with the visual first page is basically more dependent on the server. Okay, it is more dependent on the server. So let's say whenever you need whenever you want to get any data from the server, so always you need to request for the server, can you give me the data? Okay, so here what is going to happen, it is going to increase the load on the server. Okay, so to resolve that particular problem, Salesforce introduces the Lightning. So Lightning is less dependent on the server. Okay, and in the Lightning, if you want to use, if you want to write any code, so you need to write that particular code in the form of HTML. You can write that particular code in the form of CSS. You can write that particular code in the form of JavaScript. Okay, for the server side, let's say if you want to fetch the record or you want to insert any record, so in that scenario we can go for the Apex classes. Okay, another advantage is that Lightning and Visual Force page is nothing but uh, Visual Force page is not compatible with the mobile applications. Okay, but the Lightning is more compatible with the uh, 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 mobile applications. Okay, so in 2014 we have the Aura component, and in 2019 we have the Lightning Web component. Okay, so let's see what are the difference between the Aura component as well as the LWC component. Okay. So in 2014, Salesforce basically introduces the Aura. Okay. So in the Aura component, so basically Aura is nothing but a framework. Okay. So let's say if you want to build any functionality, so you need to dependent on the Aura framework component code. Okay. So what will happen? So let's say if you have written any code, okay. So if you want to save that particular code, so first thing, let's say you have written the code, and if you want to save that particular code, so first thing, you need to write that particular code, whatever the your framework is going to understand that particular code, and once that particular code is going to save, it is going to save that particular code in the form of HTML and CSS. So here what is happening? Here that conversion is like happening. It is like trying to convert that particular code in the framework code to the HTML and CSS. But and whenever you want to get the output, so again the HTML code is going to convert in the form of in the Aura, and then you are going to see the output. So to resolve that particular problem, in this 2019, Salesforce introduces the LWC component, Lightning Web component. And here, only few thing is available in the framework, but most of the thing is available inside the Lightning Web standard. Web standard is nothing but the your browser. Okay, so in 2014, if I'm talking about the framework, so in the your framework you have the data services, you have the UI component, you have the component model, you have the template, you have the rendering optimization, you have the language extension. So most of the thing is dependent on the framework, but here in 2019 model, you have the most of the thing is dependent on your own browser. Whatever the your browser is going to understand, only few things is available inside your framework. And in the 2014 model, you have the old version of the JavaScript. Now you have the ECMAScript, that is the latest version of the JavaScript, that is the newest version of the JavaScript. Okay, so these are the difference between the Aura component as well as the LWC component. Okay, all right. So if I'm talking about the difference between the Lightning component, Lightning application. So Lightning application is a container, okay, which is used to contain the either the Aura component, either you can put the LWC component, okay, to see the output. Okay, so inside one Lightning application component, you cannot add one more Lightning application component. Okay, you can add only one application. You can add only one in one application. You can add the either Aura component, either you can add the LWC component. Okay, okay. So okay. So the Aura component, it might be contain the LWC component, but LWC component won't contain the Aura component. Okay, so a component might be either it will be the Aura component, either it might be the LWC component. See, both thing is the different. Okay, both thing is different. Lightning component event, application event is both are different. Okay, it is not similar to that. Okay, okay. So let's talk about the uh, structure of the Aura component. So in the Aura component, we have the 8 files. So let's say we have the CMP file. So what is the component file? It is basically use the just put it your HTML tag inside the CMP file. If you want to write any the Aura component, any let's say lightning input or lightning output, anything. So basically cmp.cmp file is basically used to just put it the markup kind of stuff. Okay, then we have the JavaScript file .js file. So JavaScript file basically used to just put it the controller. Okay, so there you can write the logic. Okay, then we have the helper file. So in the helper file, again, you can write the logic, whatever the logic you want to write, you can just write it. Okay, so then now you can ask me one question. Okay, we have already the controller file, why we are going for the helper file? So you can write you can write the any apex class code. You can write the any apex trigger inside the trigger itself. Okay, but why you are going for the classes? Because this is the best practices. This is the best practices to write. If you want to write any class, if you want to write any code, go for the class. Okay, so similar way here, you can write the cloud, you can write the functionality inside the controller file, but the best practice is you should write the code inside the helper. Okay, and here if you are writing any code inside the helper file, so there the code reusability is going to increase. Okay, you can reuse that particular code inside the any other functionality if you have any other functionalities. Okay, then we have the CSS files. So CSS files is basically used to just like if you want to include any style sheet, if you want to add any style kind of stuff. Okay, if you want to add any CSS, so for that we need to use the CSS file. Then we have the Aura doc. So aura doc is basically used like why this particular component you have created, what is the use of that particular component. So to use that particular information, we have the aura doc. Okay, then we have the design. Okay, so design files basically used to create the attributes. Okay, so let's say if I want to get any input field, if I want to get any input value from the if I want to get an input for value from the flows. Okay, so those attribute we need to define inside the design files. Okay, then we have the svg file. So svg file is basically used to put the icons. Okay, then we have the renders. Okay, so render is basically used if you want to override the standard render things. Okay, so for that we need to use the renders files. If I'm talking about the lightning web component bundle, so in the lightning web component, if you have a standard created, so by default where there will be the only three, so html, js, as well as the metadata file, but you can add the css and svg files. Okay, so again, html file is basically used to just write the html code. JS file is basically used to just write a JavaScript code. Okay, CSS file is basically used to just write the CSS code. Okay, SVG file is basically used to just put it if you want to put it any icon kind of stuff. Okay, so for that we can write the SVG file. Okay, then we have the metadata file. So metadata file is going to tell you where you want to use this particular web component. Either you want to use in home page, either you want to use in the uh, app page, either where you want to use. So for that we need to use that. Okay, helper.js file can be used only for that specific component. However, in the case of the class of for the trigger, the classes can be used. I have just tell you the examples. Okay, so you can just write the code either in the uh, classes, either you can write inside the trigger. Okay, but the helper file will be just only used to just code utility. Okay, you can write the code in the js file or controller file as well as the helper file in the both places. Okay, but the js file just used for the code usability. Okay, yeah, we know like you can write n number of the code, like different method you can write in the class. Okay, sure. All right. Okay. Okay, so let's say if I talk about the difference between the visual force page and lightning. So visual force basically is page centric, lightning is basically app centric. Okay, visual force page is, let's say, stateful server, lightning is the stateless server. Okay, visual force page is the stateless client, here it is the stateful clients. Okay, visual force page is not optimal for the mobile application, it is great for the everything. Okay, let's talk about the lesson part 7. Okay, that is nothing but the testing, debugging, and the deployment. Okay, so here we are going to just talk about the little bit about the how we can write it as classes. Okay, then we are going to talk about the what is the Salesforce CLI, what is the Salesforce TX. Okay, how we can write the what is the developer consoles. Okay, so those things we are going to discuss. Okay, then we are going to talk about the how we can monitoring the how we can monitoring the, let's say, any asynchronous calls. Okay, or yeah, how we can monitor any apex jobs. Okay, okay. Okay, so whenever you have written any class, okay, whenever you will write any apex class, okay, either it might be for the visual force pages, either it might be for the triggers, it might be for the uh, LWC component. Okay, so whenever you want to move any apex class from the sandbox to the production, okay, you should write the apex class, okay, and you should have the minimum 75% code coverage, okay. If you have the less code coverage, okay, less than 75% code coverage, you are going to you can't move that particular class from the sandbox to the production, okay. And you should your code your test class should be passed, it should not throw any exception, okay. So then you can pass, then you can then you can send the your code from the sandbox to the production arc, okay. So whenever you are writing any test class, okay, so whenever you are trying to execute that particular test class, so might be you have used the annotation, you need to use the annotation, let's say at the rate is test, okay. So what will happen whenever you will run a test class, so what the Salesforce will do, it is going to receive a specific command, okay. What is going to happen, it is going to receive a specific command which is going to tell you need to write that particular class, okay. And whatever the data you are trying to create inside the test class, that particular data is not going to create inside your actual database, okay. It is going to create inside the dummy database, okay. So if everything is fine, so your test class is going to run successfully. If there is a problem, so in that time you are going to get the error, and you will get what is the reason why this particular test class is getting failed, okay. And if everything is fine, so in that time you are going to get that particular test class code coverage also, okay. So if you want to write any test class, so first thing is that you need to write the annotation at the rate is test, okay. Then here you need to give as a public, you can give any class as a public, any access modifier is fine here, but make sure you should give as a private, because we are not going to use this particular class in outside of the Salesforce, okay. So you should give this, these are the best practices to write if you want to give any class as if you want to write in this class, so you should write that particular class as a uh, you should write that particular class as a private only, okay. Similarly, if you want to write any method, so you should write that particular method as a annotation at the rate is test, and you should write that particular method as a private only, okay. And let's say if I have written any class for the account trigger controller, and if I want to write the test class for that, so you should append the underscore test at the end of that particular class, okay. So these are the some best practices you should follow whenever you are writing the test class, okay. The next question is that how the Salesforce will came to know this particular is a class is a test class. So it is came to know using the at the rate is test, okay. If you have written the at the rate is test, then that Salesforce will come to know, okay, this particular class is for the test classes, okay. So in this particular slide, we are going to talk about the how we can create the test data. So there is basically the three ways, okay, to creating the test data. So the first thing is that you can create here you can create a data factory, okay. And a data factory is nothing but a class, okay, where we can create a common data, okay. And whenever we want to use that, so we can just go, we can call that particular class name and dot method name, and we can use that. So this is the one way. Second way is that you can create a test setup method, okay. And in the test setup method, whatever the data you want to insert it, you can insert it, and whenever you want to access, so by default whatever the data you have created inside the test setup, automatically it is going to available inside your method. The third way is that you can create any method, and inside that particular method you can create that particular data, okay. So these are the ways to create any data inside your test class, okay. Another way is that you can create the data inside your Excel sheet, okay. And if you want to access that particular data inside your Apex class code, so what do you need to do, you need to upload that particular Excel sheet as a static resource, okay. And if you want to access that particular data inside your Apex class, so what do you need to do, you need to just write here, let's say test dot load data, and let's say your object name dot as object type, and here you are the static resource name. So using that, you can add that particular data inside your test class also, okay. So might be whenever you are trying to upload the data using the Excel sheet or let's say CSV file, so might be sometime you need to insert the parent object data as well as might be you need to insert the child object data also. Okay, so how we can do that? So here we can just write here first thing we need to just here give here let's say course. Okay, so course will be the parent, so you can give here the ID. Then if you want to insert the course delivery is nothing but the child. Okay, so if I want to insert that, so here you need to just also give here let's say course, you need to map that. Okay, so might be this might be the fake ID. Okay, or this might be the dummy ID, but you need to give that. Okay, so that's how you need to insert this parent object as well as the child object. Okay, so by default if you are writing any test class, okay, so by default you cannot see the setup object data. That means you cannot see the standard object. Oh sorry, by default if you are writing any test class, so by default you can't see the standard object data, you can't see the custom object data, you can see only the setup object data. Means user profiles, roles data, you can see that. Okay, let's say my requirement is that I want to see the standard object data as well as the custom object data inside the test class. So for that, what you need to do, you need to make as a see all data is equal to true before that particular class. Then if you make that, then in the test class you can see the standard object data as well as the custom object data as well as the set of object data. But this is the not best practice, you should make as a CL data is equal to true. Okay, because why if you are make let's say CL data is equal to true inside your test class. Okay, now you are querying the data. Okay, so let's say I am checking the value name is equal to Sanjay. Okay, so might be in the sandbox the name equal to Sanjay will be there, but when you are moving that particular code from the sandbox to the production, okay, might be that production Sanjay name might be not there, so in that time it might be create the issue. Okay, so never these are the not best practice, but yeah, this is the way if you want to write that. Okay, so executing a test class, so whenever you are trying to execute that any test class, okay, so it for the test class also you have the you have the same governor limit, like you can perform the 150 DML operations. Okay, so whatever the governor limit is there, so you have that. Okay, so let's say if I'm trying to insert a record, so let's say I want to insert let's say I want to insert the account, contact, opportunity. I have the let's say 50 objects. Okay, I want to insert. Okay, and I have the 3 or 4 methods. Okay, so all the 4 method I'm going to execute as all the method is going to execute it together. Okay, so it might be hit the governor limit because we need to write the 200 times of the DML operations. Okay, so to avoid that, what we can use? We can use the it's read only. Okay, so here test dot start test dot stop test. What is going to do? It is going to reset your governor limit. That means it is your reset the governor limit. So let's say in the first method you have used the 10 10 DML operations. Okay, so for the next method, if you have not used the test dot start test dot stop test, so for the next for the next method you have the only the 140 DML operation remaining. Okay, but using the test dot start test dot stop test, if you want to use the test dot start test dot stop test, so using that you can reset the governor limit. That means if you are performing the DML operation inside the test dot start test dot stop test, so in that scenario for the next method again 150 DML operation is already printed, already will be available. So here it is asking what with the line of the 8 is going to print. So here I'm trying to perform a single DML operations. Okay, so here it is going to print as a 1, and if I'm trying to print the same line here, so what is going to happen? It is already reset the governor limit. So here I will get here the value of 0. Again, if I will outside of the test dot start test, if I will check it, so again it is going to give the value 1 because I already used 1. Okay, so that is the use of the test dot start test dot stop test. Okay, Then we have the assertion. Okay, so assertion is basically used whenever you are trying, let's say you have entered the name is equal to Sanjay and you have inserted. Okay, now you want to test it, either the name whichever inserted inside the database, either it will be the Sanjay only or something else. So that you can do it using the by using the assertion. So what you can do here, you can just write here the system data set equal. Okay, then you can just write here, let's say what you are expecting. Okay, and what you are actually you are getting, and this will be the optional. So if both are not right, whatever you are expecting what and whatever you are getting, if both are not right, so in that scenario you can throw an error message. Okay, okay, so that's how, if you want to compare, so for that what you need to use, you need to use the system dot aside equal. Clear? Okay, then we have the system dot run as. So by default, whenever you are trying to run any test class, so it is going to run on the system mode. Okay, let's say you have requirement, might be you want to run any test class based on the user specific mode. Let's say you have a requirement, you want to run any test class on the user specific mode. So how you can do that? So for the user, for the actual message, might be you need to write the try catch. You can just do that. Or whenever your test class is getting failed, you are also getting in the label you itself, you will get in the error label, you are already getting that particular what is the issue. Okay, so you can get that over there also. Okay, so whenever you want to write any certain code on the whenever you want to let's say write a whenever you want to execute a certain piece of code on the based on the user specific mode. Okay, so in that scenario we need to go for this system dot run as. Okay, so the next thing is that how do we how the percentage going to calculate it. So it is going to calculate it based on the number of the covered line divided by the total number of line, or you can say either number of the covered line plus number of the uncovered line. Okay, so that's how the code coverage is going to calculate it inside the inside the uh, test classes. Okay, next thing is that the debugging. Okay, so whenever you are trying to working as a developer, okay, so might be you need to set up a debug log. Okay, so there you will get the few options, let's say log category, log level, and event types. Okay, so what is the log category? So log category is nothing but the log category is nothing but the what information you want to. So let's say you want to get the apex, you want to get the information about the what are the requirement for the flows and the process when it comes to the testing and the deployment. For the flow and process builder, you no need to write any test class and all. Okay, for the flow recently they have introduced, yes, might be you need to write a test cases for that. Okay, but still it's not came into the pictures. Okay, so yeah, so log category is nothing but the whenever you want to get the information for the apex for the workflow. Okay, and that is nothing but defined by the log category, and the log level is defined like what kind of the amount of information you want to get. So let's say there is a certain levels like fine, finer, finest. Okay, so these are the certain levels is nothing but defined inside the log level. Okay, so event type is nothing but it is combination of the log category and the log level. Okay, so debug log is for one logs you have the maximum the 200 MB limits. Okay, if it is going to greater than the more than 200 limit 200 MB, so might be you need to refresh your debug log. Okay, so see here, so log category is nothing but under the log category you need to define which kind of the data you want, which information you want. So let's say I want to get the database workflow, call out, apex code, apex profiling, visual force page, and systems. Okay, and here you need to just define like what kind of the labels you what the log label you want. I want to, let's say, nothing. I want to get, let's say, error, one, info, debug, fine, finer, finest. So fine means I want to get only few details. Finer means I want to get, like, finest means I want to get all the details. Okay, so that is nothing but defined by the log labels. Okay, then let's say the last topic is nothing but the deployment. Okay, so uh, deployment is nothing here nothing but the metadata versus the data. Okay, so what is the metadata? Metadata is nothing but the your object, your field, your classes. Okay, these are the nothing but the your metadata. Okay, data is nothing but, so let's say I have created a field. I have created a field with the name is equal to Sanjay. Okay, so whatever the Sanjay value I have entered, that is nothing but the data, and metadata is nothing but that particular field. Okay, finer means let's say you want to get the middle level of information, not lesser, not so much. Okay, so I want to get only the few data. Okay, so for that we need to go for the finer. Okay, so whenever we are going to come into the pictures, so whenever we want to if I we are talking about the deployment, so in the deployment we are going to deploy the metadata only. Okay, so we are going to just send the metadata from one org to another org. Okay, so if I'm talking about the sandbox. Okay, so what is the sandbox? Just guys 1 minute. Okay, so what is the sandbox? So sandbox is nothing but sandbox is nothing but uh, replica of your production environment. Okay, so which is used to, if you want to develop anything. So okay, so for that we need to use the sandbox. Okay, so in the production you can't write the code. So if you want to write the code, so for that you need to go for the sandbox. You need to write the code inside the sandbox. Okay, and if you want, let's say if you have built any code. Okay, if you have built anything and if you want to push that particular code from the sandbox to the production. Okay, so that is the process of the moving the data from the sandbox to production. Okay, so we have the these type of the org available inside the Salesforce organization. We have the production org, we have the trial production org, we have the sandboxes org. Okay, and we have the developer org, we have the partner developer org, we have the scratch org. Okay, okay, so if I'm talking about the difference between the if I'm talking about the difference between the different type of the sandboxes. So we have the full sandbox, we have the partial copy sandbox, we have the developer pro sandbox, we have the developer sandbox. So what is the difference between them? So our full sandbox is whenever we are trying to create the full sandbox. So full sandbox is nothing but whenever we'll create the full sandbox, so whatever the metadata, that means whatever the class, whatever the object, whatever the field is there. Okay, so all those things is going to copy. Along with that, your data is also going to copy. All the data is going to copy. But whenever you are trying to go for the partial copy sandbox, so in the partial copy sandbox, whenever you will create the partial copy sandbox, so in that time all your metadata is going to copy, as well as maximum 5 GB data you can copy that. Okay, scratch charge is nothing but a temporary maybe I will tell you in the next slides. Okay, uh then we have the developer pro sandbox. So in the developer pro sandbox, it is going to copy only the metadata, it is not going to copy the data. Okay, then we have the developer sandbox. Okay, and in the developer sandbox, whenever we are trying to create the developer sandbox, so it is going to copy only the metadata. Okay, it is not going to copy the data, and here we can store only the 200 MB data, not more than that. Okay, so uh, what are the option available inside the deployment? Okay, so uh, the standard way is doing the deployment from the one arc to another arc using the chance set. genset. Okay. Another way is that using the manage package, you can build any manage package, and using the manage package, you can just install it any another org. Okay, that is another way. Third way is that you can create, you can go for the either using the ant migration tools. Okay, you can use the VS Code, you can use the SFDX CLIs. Okay, so using the third, this is the third way. Okay, so there you can download, you need to download that particular metadata inside as a local file. Okay, and from the local file, you can push that particular code to the any to your production org. Okay, so the next thing is that the Salesforce SFDX. Okay, so Salesforce SFDX is basically used to move the metadata from the one arc to another arc. Okay, and it is basically use the Git version controls. Okay, so it is basically used whenever, let's say, for one project there is multiple team is going to work. So in that time, who have did changes what. Okay, so if I want to go and if I want to monitor, okay, if I want to monitor that. Okay, so that things we can do it using the SFDX. Okay, Salesforce SFDX. Then yeah, this is nothing but the scratch arc. So what is the scratch arc? So scratch arc is nothing but a temporary arc. Okay, which is you can create it using the SFDX CLIs. Okay, and it is it is basically when we are going to create a scratch arc. So let's say might be any new developer is came into our teams. Okay, so we, if we don't want to give him the, let's say, sandbox access, so what we can do it, we can create a scratch arc. Okay, and we can give him. Okay, and we can give a certain requirement for him. Okay, and once that particular requirement is built, so he can push that particular code to our sandboxes, our yeah, we can, they can he can send that particular code to our sandboxes. Okay, so normal deployment model, how it is going to work, how it is going to work. So let's say in the normal deployment model, we have the one metadata repository. Okay, normal deployment model, in that we have the only the one metadata repository. So if I want to access that particular code, so using the VS Code or the using any third party IDs. Okay, we can access that particular code. Okay, now if we want to push that particular code, or let's say if I want to retrieve that particular code. Okay, so we can retrieve it using the SFDX CLI. Okay, this is the simple deployment model. So there will be the only one metadata repository. Okay, which is there we are going to put all the code. Okay, but if I'm going to talk about the best practices, or you can say typical deployment environment model, how it is going to work. So there will be the one working directory. There will be the one working directory. Okay. So in this working directory, you are going to put only those code which is working fine. If let's say if there is any problem in that particular code, you are not going to work, you are not going to put that. Okay. What is the way to create a production org? Okay, pre-production org. Okay, I want to have all the data and the metadata org. Okay, so you need to create first, you need to purchase that particular Salesforce org. Okay, then you can create this, you need to create the sandboxes, not the pre-production org. Okay, you need to just purchase the production org from the Salesforce. Okay, so here what we happen, here you have the only one working directory. So in this working directory, you should have, you need to write the code which is working fine. Okay, the next thing is that you have the local repository. Okay, so if you want to send the code to, let's say you want to send that particular code to the GitHub or any other third party anywhere. Okay, so you can send that particular code to the local repository. Okay, you can just, you are going to send that particular code to the from the local repository. And let's say if I want to get that particular code, so I can create the scratch arg, I can just pull that particular code and I can push that particular code once that particular code is going to build. Okay, so here what will happen, here we are going to put only those code which is going to working fine. Even and we can send that particular code to the sandbox, and from the sandbox to the, we can deploy that particular code. Either we can directly send that particular code from the sandbox or working directly to the our production org. Okay, so if I'm talking about the difference between the chance set, SFDS and migration tools, so uh, deploy the changes, what is the capability of that? Okay, so if I want to deploy the changes from one org to another org which is related to each other, So we can do it using the chance set, SFDX, as well as our navigation tools. Deploy the changes from one arc to another arc which is not related. So if there is two arc which is not related to each other, in that scenario we can't send the code using the chance set. We can send the code using the SFDX as well as the anti-migration tools. If I want to delete a metadata, if I want to delete any code, so that we can do it using the SFDX and the anti-migration tools, not using the chance set. Okay. If I want to manage the changes in the source code control system, that we can't manage it using the genset. Using the subdx and migration tools we can do that. um Let's say if I'm trying to send any code from the sandbox to production and I want to validate it, either whatever the object I have used in this particular class, either that particular object is there or not. Okay, so is who is going to manage why using which we can manage, we can check it. So we can check it using the chance at sfdx as well as migration tools. Okay, if I want to verify either we have the 75% code coverage or not, so in the all scenario we can check it. Okay, uh automated script, if I want to write the automated script, so why which we can write the automated script, that is possible only the using the sfdx as well as the migration tools. Okay, all right. That's it guys, nothing is there. Okay, so thank you for the listening, thank you for your patience. Okay, and yeah, if you have any questions, so please share your questions, I will try to give the answer maximum what I can give. Okay, see, due to short times here, I should not handle the questions. Okay, question answer, but I'll try to give my best to whatever the question and answer I have, I can give it. Okay, uh, so yep. Okay, so one more thing is that, okay, so if you want to attend these sessions, okay, if you want to uh, just uh, like if you want to just you want to learn the more things about this PD1 examinations. Okay, so Salesforce is providing the course. The course name is nothing but the DXC450. Okay, so in the trailhead, if you search DXC450, okay, so you can just go through that particular course. Okay, so this is the, you can say only the 2%, or you can say the 10% of that particular course syllabus. Okay, so that will be the 5 days course. Okay, so it will be the at least 40 hours syllabus. Okay, so if you are going to attend that, so it is very helpful for you to become as a Salesforce developer, and easily you can crack the PD1 exams. Okay, because we are going to deliver in the such way training, so that it is going to it is going to it is going to just you will have the at least basic idea about the PD1 examinations. Okay, so if you want to attend that particular course, go through that. Okay, each formula field work on the backend or the page loading field, which means this changes in the formula in the trigger. Sorry. Okay, yeah. So yeah, we have the LWC courses. The LWC course name is nothing but the DXC 602. So you can just go through that. Okay. So yeah, I'll send you. I know you guys are waiting for the discount. Okay. So this is the coupon code. Okay. I hope you guys have learned. Okay. Few things. Okay. So this is the your discount code. Okay. The course name is that nothing but DXC 450. That is for the PD1. Okay. So thank you guys. Thank you for your patience. I hope you have learned few things. Okay. Yep, that's it. I have no idea about this, like how like till at what date it will be valid. I have no idea about that. Okay, sorry for that. Okay. Yeah, it might be October, till October. Yeah. No, there's no attendance sheet. Okay. Yeah, I am pasting here only. Just check it. I am pasting 3 times. I have pasted 3 times. I think it is going to applicable for all. Okay. Okay. Thank you guys. Thank you so much. See you. Bye. All the best for your future. Uh, Bye bye, guys.